Hello, my friends. Thank you so much for coming to spend part of your Sunday with me. Today is Sunday, November 5th for posterity. We like to put that in the stream so when you're rewatching, you can remember what we did on which day. So I promised you some more Maya catch up today, and that is what I plan to do. But I'm going to kind of leave it up to you guys about what you want to see. I have some stuff queued up that I wanted to go back over because so many of you were so kind and you're so helpful, and you sent me the I want to say auditions, the interviews that Ethen Shapiro did with the media on November 1st and I think October 26th. So maybe we can start off with that. No, Sarah, my football team did not win. And that is why the light is off today over there. Sorry, Buffs. I don't know. I was feeling good about it, but just didn't happen. And it went on until about past 1 a.m. in New York. It was a late game. So I'm in mourning with all the rest of my Buffs fans. Hello. Hello, everyone. I know. Thank you. Thank you, Patroness Glow. It's all right. It's all right. They still have Deion Sanders. And hopefully he's going to stick around. And, next year is another year. So we'll see what happens. I also have for you, and I want to know how many of you have seen this because this is not going to be admitted as evidence. The jury is not going to see this. And I found it. And it made me mad, and it might make you mad too. Has anybody seen the order changing placement status, discharging Maya from the hospital to her father's care that was entered into by the dependency court or the juvenile court, dated January 13th of 2017? If you've seen it, put a Y in the chat. If you haven't seen it, put an N in the chat, please, so I can see how many people have seen this. It's not public. I don't know how many people have sought it out, but it is the judge's order in the dependency court that released Maya to her father's custody. All right, you want to see it? We'll do that after we look at Shapiro, the interview that he gave to the media. There's two from him and one from Greg Anderson that we did not review yesterday. So let's take a look at those. And then we'll look at that order. And then I thought what we might do is to go back and look at Maya's damages testimony, if you'd like to do that. Can anybody tell me if Dr. Majors was called in during the trial? And if you know about when Dr. Majors was called in, because they mentioned her a lot in this dependency court hearing. And I know that you guys can be a lot more up on this than I am sometimes because you have a lot more knowledge than I do with regards. That would be very helpful. All right. So the first thing we're going to look at is defense attorney Ethen Shapiro's statement that he gave to the press on October 26th. I'm going to pause it to read, to repeat the questions to you because it's almost impossible to hear the questions as usual. And I like to do that for you. So let me just get this up. And remember, this is from, what did I say, October 27th? Okay. You ready? Let me know you can hear it.
Well, I guess going off of just the testimony that we heard, how are you all feeling after hearing Dr. Smith testify?
Yeah.
How are you all feeling after the testimony?
Thank you for the question. So we're feeling that we finally are able to get our story out, and that it was very important that now the public has heard that what All Children's did was compassionate care that saved Maya Kowalski from what was, in Dr. Smith's view, medical child abuse. And that, as Dr. Smith testified now in court today during her proffer, that suspicion of medical child abuse was confirmed by a court in Sarasota. So All Children stands behind the care they provided and that they were able to intervene in this situation on the dangerous and unnecessary medications that Maya had been subjected to.
Okay, they see themselves as the savior of Maya. They saved her. They saved her. Remember to keep the chat classy, please. Thank you.
Can you talk about the outcome of this case? We know that so far it's still going in the process, but I guess what are you concerned for the future for medical providers, not just here at All Children's, but at other hospitals and doctors' offices?
Talk about what you see for the future with regard to not just this hospital, but other hospitals and doctors. I know the case is ongoing, but tell us what you see for the future.
I appreciate it. That's a great question. So the reason why All Children's decided to take this case to trial was because, unfortunately, this case has caused a deep chilling effect on mandatory reporting throughout the country. And All Children's is here standing up for mandatory reporters that when we suspect child abuse, we report it. And in this case, as you've seen from Maya walking in and out of the courtroom every day, the improvement in her condition is exactly why we're here. So we are concerned that this case is causing and has caused a chilling effect on mandatory reporting, and we're here to stand up for the right of mandatory reporters.
Wow. Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. Hello. Hope you're having a lovely Sunday. Did that trigger anybody? Because I know there are so many kind people in my chat who suffer not only with CRPS, but with other chronic pain diseases. And did he actually just say that everyone has seen her, Maya, walking into the courtroom every day, so they know that we saved her and that she is better because she's walking into the courtroom? And we took this to trial to save mandatory reporters. How about we took this to trial because they didn't accept any of our settlement offers? How about that? Wow, this guy's good at spin. Okay, I just want to rewind that again and listen to it again because that's crazy, in my opinion. My opinions only, but you're gonna get my opinions because guess what? I'm not a cupcake. I'm not a cupcake.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So we're feeling that we finally are able to get our story out and that it was very important that now the public has heard that what All Children's did was compassionate care that saved Maya Kowalski from what was, in Dr. Smith's view, medical child abuse. And that, as Dr. Smith testified now in court today during her proffer, that suspicion of medical child abuse was confirmed by a court in Sarasota. So All Children stands behind the care they provided and that they were able to intervene in this situation on the dangerous and unnecessary medications that Maya had been subjected to.
Okay, in Dr. Smith's opinion, I think he said that maybe twice, or maybe I just heard it twice because it was echoing in my head. But again, his position is that she's not an agent of the hospital, right? But you're relying on her opinion. This is some it's a little sticky. Stepping in something a little sticky here. Maybe he shouldn't have said all this before the trial was over, but okay.
Can you talk about the outcome of this case? We know that so far it's still going in the process, but I guess what are you concerned for the future for medical providers, not just here at All Children's, but at other...
What are your concerns for the future? Not just here at All Children's, but with regard to other hospitals.
That's a great question. So the reason why All Children's decided to take this case to trial was because, unfortunately, this case has caused a deep chilling effect on mandatory reporting throughout the country. And All Children's is here standing up for mandatory reporters that when we suspect child abuse, we report it. And in this case, as you've seen from Maya walking in and out of the courtroom every day, the improvement in her condition is exactly why we're here. So we are concerned that this case is causing and has caused a chilling effect on mandatory reporting, and we're here to stand up for the right of mandatory reporters.
They're standing up for the right of mandatory reporters. That's noble of them, don't you think? Noble.
There were some clear cases of missteps by some of the staff of the hospital.
She says there were some clear cases of missteps by staff in the hospital.
So far, what are some of those things that you might be looking to change, or maybe...
So far, what are some of those things that you might be looking to change?
Talking about policy procedure that will help avoid situations.
Or talking about policies and procedures that might help
Like this.
prevent situations like this in the future.
I actually do not think there were any missteps that were done by the hospital in this case. I think when you look at the totality of the care that was provided, it was compassionate. The hospital was focused on weaning Maya off the dangerous and unnecessary drugs. And again, Maya remained at the hospital under court shelter because the court determined that the hospital was the safest place for her.
I know you guys have watched all the testimony of all of the nurses and others that were employed by the hospital, and I can think of maybe one or two that appeared to be compassionate on the stand. What say you? I see. Look at Hope. Hope says he's delusional. Delusional. Predictable answer. Compassionate. All right, let it keep playing.
So no policy, procedure, anything changing after this order
So no policy or procedure or anything is going to change after this
deal?
The
case is
hospital
over.
always reviews policies and procedures, but the hospital is credentialed by outside agencies that have found that the hospitals always operate under safe environments.
Oh my God, that is a blatant lie. You guys, we saw the CMS report. We, on the last live stream, we went into the immediate jeopardy findings. Did you hear what he just said? Oh boy, hold on.
By outside agencies that the hospital always reviews policies and procedures, but the hospital is credentialed by outside agencies that have found that the hospitals always operate under safe environments.
Always, except for in 2019 when you were cited, and except for in 2018 when how many children died in your hospital and you paid out millions and millions of dollars in the cardiac unit? Wow. Wow. Well, he's not really opening the door. Somebody said he opened the door because this is not an open court. He said this to the media. Wow. That's part of what you. Yeah, this goes back to, what did I say? This was October 26th or 27th. Definitely before the bomb was dropped. Oh, I think that B word I just said might be one of the demonetization words. Somebody was so nice to send me a spreadsheet of all the demonetization words. And now I know why the one with Matthew Perry was demonetized, because I had two demonetization words in the title. Oh, well, you live, you learn.
We know the jury hasn't heard the allegations of sexual abuse as well. That one allegation. Can you talk about what the?
You know that the jury has not heard about the
When
allegations of SA, another thing I can't say. What can you say about that as well?
the hospital was made aware of it, we dealt with it as we have to as mandatory reporters. But as you remember, when Dr. Katzenstein testified, she made it unequivocal that when Maya talked to her about it, that it was at a previous institution, and that, as Dr. Katzenstein's note reflects, that allegation was not made about a member of the All Children's team.
What has this done to the reputation of the hospital in light of that documentary that a lot more people have seen than they've seen this trial?
What does this do to the reputation of the hospital? I need to listen to that again.
Of the hospital in light of that documentary that a lot more people have
In
seen
light of
than
that
they've seen this trial?
documentary.
So I think that's part of the reason why we're here, to make sure that the whole truth comes out with regard to this. All Children's was recently.
Oh, that's why you're there, because the documentary came out and painted you in a bad light? Wait, or is it because you want to protect mandatory reporters? Or is it because you want everyone to know that Maya is 100% better because of the excellent, compassionate care that she received in your hospital? Which one is it? He had a lot of bullet points to hit, and he hit them all.
Named the #1 pediatric hospital in the state of Florida by U.S. News and World Report. So the reputation of the hospital is excellent, and the community still trusts us with their care.
Except in 2019, when that federal report came out and you were 5 seconds away from losing your federal funding. Do you think he's in the dark, or do you think he really knows and he's intentionally mischaracterizing pretty much a lot of things that he just said?
Anything we can expect in the last couple of days of testimonies coming in, moving forward, I guess?
Anything you can say about the last couple of days of testimony coming in moving forward before you
Closing?
Sure.
Are you
There's been
closing?
a lot of allegations made by the plaintiff that are completely unfounded, that they have no evidence to support. So we intend on calling those witnesses so that they can hear directly from the jury. And I apologize, I do have to run back in. Thank you so much.
Yes, he does have to run back in. He's a very, very, very busy man. Okay, I feel like I need to go to the chat right now because I know you guys are probably boiling with anger. So let's see what's happening here. Spetty Rossi'd be a really bad lawyer if you didn't know. Okay, I'm hoping you lied to the judge Wednesday about Dr. Anderson's testimony. Ray, I think Shapiro has to know, but he made a lot of mistakes. If he does know, he's opened the door on a lot of the testimony. Yep, I agree. I'm going to show that court order in a minute. Para Noha 07. I have papers to prove that Hunter was in the case all along. He never should have been a lawyer for this case. He should have been a witness. I may agree with you on that because we're going to look at that next. The funny thing is they tried to settle out of court. You are correct. And, settlement discussions are confidential, but we have heard about that. And look, every case, at some point they try and settle. There have been some rumors about how much they tried to settle for, which in my opinion was, a ridiculously low amount. So just to go back to that was from October 26th. And now, yesterday we looked at Anderson's from November 1, but now let's look at, the 26th. Now let's look at Anderson this is from November 1, which was, what day was that? Wednesday. Let's take a look at this. Hey, Megan. Okay, let me just say that this guy right here on the right, does anyone know his name? Because I have a feeling that he is the one doing all the work. You see him in court. He's sitting right behind. He's sitting at the second row of the plaintiff's tables, and he's got his laptop out. He is invested. I think he's the whole brains behind the operation. He doesn't ever speak. They don't let him question any of the witnesses. He doesn't get up and argue anything. But I think this attorney right here is doing a lot of the work. Just my thoughts.
Thanks for waiting, guys.
Yeah,
All right. Well, we gotta stop meeting like this.
He says, we got to stop meeting like this.
All right. Anybody have any questions?
Tim, we don't need your name.
But yeah, go give me your name and spell it so that we get it correct.
No, just
Hi.
give us your name and
I'm,
spell it.
Gregory Anderson, GREGORYANDERSON.
So, Mr. Anderson, can you tell us how you feel about the defense resting their case today?
Can you tell us how you feel about the defense resting their case today?
To me, it was sort of anticlimactic. I never saw in their case anything other than nipping around the edges of ours. And strangely, I think their case, it seems like they just gave up on liability, and now they're trying to take the fact that Maya's not in the hospital right now and argue that somehow they're responsible for it, which, since she's had a number of episodes since this time, I think that tells the tale.
Can you explain a little bit more about dropping the liability, what you mean by that?
Can you explain a little bit more
Well,
about
they have no
dropping the
psychiatrist or
liability? What do you
psychologist
mean by that?
came in and testified
Oh.
about their allegations, to support their allegations. They basically Well, they have no psychiatrist or psychologist that came in and testified about their allegations, to support their allegations. They basically took some speculation by some doctors before Maya was diagnosed with CRPS, and they tried to turn that into an opinion, but that's not an expert opinion. And so without the right experts, I can't see where they're going. They had a couple of good liability experts, but I don't think they scored any points because they really had never examined Maya. They'd never interviewed her. And some of their opinions were so far afield from ours and the treating physicians that I don't think they made that much impact.
What is it that you want mostly for the jury to understand?
What is it that you want mostly for the jury to understand?
Just how unbelievably difficult this was for the Kowalski family. And the fact that they stood up for their rights to treat their own child with the best knowledge they could, with every bit of information they could, and they made the right choices. And so the things that happened to them at Johns Hopkins are beyond belief, absolutely beyond belief, but we've proved them over and over again. And I think everyone should realize how much courage it takes to go 5 years of litigation. Maya gave 5 depositions. Jack gave 5 depositions. Just think about that for a second. Most people give 1, maybe 2. This thing has gone on forever. It's a blessing we got it to trial. Our trial judge did a superb job getting us to trial, pushing it to trial, because they deserve justice, and maybe they'll find it here.
On the topic of Judge Carroll, he's been, as you said,
On the topic of Judge Carroll,
very adamant about keeping things on schedule.
he's been very adamant about keeping things on schedule.
Yeah.
He's also at times been critical of both you and the defense.
He's also at times been critical of both you and the defense
in regards to timing,
in regards to
getting exhibitions prepped. Are you at all worried?
Getting exhibits prepped. Are you at all worried?
Especially given the time constraints that you'll be able to get your rebuttal.
Are you at all concerned about the time constraints, especially getting your rebuttal in?
Through as much as you need to?
Oh, sure. We will, because he told me I had just 2.5 hours. So are making sure that we're getting it done in 2.5 hours. Judge Carroll runs a tight courtroom, and that's good. And he has his way of doing things. And if you're not going to do it his way, well, he's going to let you know. But he's no different than most judges, especially in a high pressure, challenging case like this. So we're very confident we'll get our rebuttal in, but we really don't believe we need that much rebuttal. Our case was solid from the start. With the kind of experts we have, I'm very confident.
With the video depositions, as you said, we saw there the defense play snippets of them, very short.
With the deposition videos that the defense played, you saw that the defense played snippets of them.
Exactly.
With Maya saying, "I'm okay right now."
With Maya saying, "I'm okay right now."
Can you just talk and reiterate to people with the disease that
Can you just talk and reiterate to people
Maya has, chronic regional pain syndrome?
Sure.
That Maya has chronic regional pain syndrome.
At times she can be okay.
And at times she can be
Well,
okay.
there's a base level of pain, but when you're in that much pain at different times, it becomes sort of, it's not as noticeable as a normal person, really. You develop a high tolerance for it. CRPS patients always have a little bit of pain, but it does come and go. And this is one of the elusive and frankly frustrating things about the disease, is that you can feel great one day and then for 4 days not want to get out of bed. And Maya's testified to that over and over and over again. And over the course of 5 depositions, they took the ones out of 5 where she was doing well, and took snippets out of that as though to portray that was Maya's life after Johns Hopkins. And it's simply not the case. She went in, she almost died in one relapse, and Arnold Palmer's Children's Hospital had to go and had a feeding tube, and the photographs of her there and the amount of weight she lost because she was in so much pain she couldn't eat are just horrifying. And the jury's seen those. So it's a shame that they didn't put more of her on, but I understand why they did it tactically. It's about the only thing they could do.
If anybody knows off the top of their head when Maya was admitted to Arnold Palmer Children's Hospital and had that incident where she almost died, can you put that in the chat? Just the approximate month and year, and who testified to that?
After 5 years, has this become more than just a case for you?
It's a quest.
He said, I
5 years has this become more than just a case?
I feel like this
It's
has
a
become more
quest.
than just a case for you.
It's become a quest. It has dominated every facet of my life, my wife's life, our firm, and the Kowalskis. This is, I think, would be one of the first times anybody's ever won one of these cases, and we've been very much aware of that. It's an incredible challenge, and it's a take no prisoners defense, where they attack things over and over and over again. They want the same discovery over and over and over again, and it tends to dominate your life. I've been through cases like this. I've had a lot of big cases in my life. I'd say this one has been the most difficult from the litigation, the pure litigation aspect of it, the controversies that didn't need to happen but happened.
And then lastly, as we move into this afternoon where the judge will talk with you all about directed verdicts.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, as we move into this afternoon where the judge will talk to y'all about directed verdicts.
How are you feeling? What are your thoughts?
How are you feeling? What are your thoughts?
Well, the defense's case, I thought in many aspects supported ours. There were a lot of witnesses I was frankly very surprised they put on, because they sounded great for us from my perspective. I don't have too many worries. Judge Carroll has his own ideas about things. We feel confident, having survived directed verdicts on all of our counts at the close of our case, that we'll survive them this time. And we may move for some on for us as well.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, that is the end of that video. There's one more I want to play from Shapiro, but first I want to get your thoughts on this one. Is Shapiro is Anderson's wife an attorney with his firm, or does everyone hit the like button? Thanks, Scarlett. Is his wife an attorney? Does she work with the firm? Is she involved with the case at all? Does anybody know? Oh, hey, Mom. Somebody said, everyone stop naming your kids Hunter. There are a lot of kids named Hunter. There were a lot of kids named Hunter when my kids were little, too. I don't know. It's weird. Yes, his wife is, Sunflower Day says. She's an attorney that works with the firm? Interesting. Yes, they have been. Okay, it's been confirmed 3 times. Thank you, Green-Eyed Southern Girl. And listen to learn. Sassy Southern Susan. Really? You're trying to give me a tongue twister? The more a corporation has to hide, the harder they try to hide, the harder the case is to go up against. Anderson is a good person to take this on, very hard worker and dedicated. Yeah, apparently this case had been rejected by a lot of other firms who didn't want to take it. So yes, they are very dedicated. I got to be honest, though, 5 years is not a long time for a case of this magnitude to get to trial. So anybody who's ever been involved in an injury lawsuit or a medical malpractice case or even a workers' comp case knows how long they take. And 5 years is pretty much normal. Rarely do case, especially because of what happened in 2020 and all the court closings. Everything really slowed down a lot. So it's not too bad. Oh, her name is on court documents? Okay. All right, thank you. Hello, happy little Vegemite. I have CRPS, and his description of the disease is right on. You constantly have a burn and pain in the affected limb. I've been suffering since 2011. Everything Maya says is right on the ball. I'm so sorry to hear that, but I want you to know that you have just found your people here, because there are so many other people in the chat in a similar situation as you. So welcome. And we understand. We understand. Yes, Monday should be very exciting. Janine, I agree. All right, let's take a look at Shapiro's statement that he gave to the press on the same day as the one we just watched, which was November 1st. Let's see what he has to say. There's no sound yet. Don't worry, it's not you.
All right. Okay, name and spell it for us.
Hey, sure. Ethen Shapiro. It's Ethen. Last name Shapiro. Shapiro.
So how do you feel after arresting your case?
We feel very good after resting our case. I think today was a good day to be able to show the jury the tremendous strides that Maya had made. You heard directly from her in her video deposition that, in her own words, she's doing much better now than she was before she entered All Children's Hospital.
We know living with a chronic living with something like CRPS, she may have been. We know that living with something like CRPS, she may have been. Well in that deposition, but we know with you can have a flare up still. She may have been feeling well in that deposition, but we know that she can have a flare up still.
Yeah, to the extent that she may have some amplified pain condition, it's very clear from her testimony that that's something that existed prior to the hospitalization. And by her own account, whatever.
Wait, so she has CRPS or she doesn't have CRPS? Which is it? Defendant, does she have the CRPS or she doesn't have it? Rewind. Remember, the jury's not going to see this because they're not supposed to be watching YouTube or the news, so they're not going to see it.
Yeah, to the extent that she may have some amplified pain condition, it's very clear from her testimony that that's something that existed prior to the hospitalization. And by her own account, whatever condition she may have, she's in a much better position now thanks to the excellent medical care at All Children's.
She's way better off now because of us. It's all because of us.
What is it that you want the jury to get out of this?
What is it that you want the jury to get out of this?
Yeah, I think the reason why we wanted this case in front of a jury of our peers is because we wanted people to know that this is a very important case for mandatory reporting. The evidence that we've been able to put on through our defense case has shown that Maya came to us in a horrible condition on a number of dangerous and unnecessary drugs. We were able to successfully wean her off those drugs and get her to a place where she can be, like you see her today, walking in and out of court, going to homecoming and living a more normal teenage life.
Yeah, she's living a more normal teenage life, except without a mother.
You know, just by talking to you in the past, just the chilling effect that you had said this has had on medical reporters after this case is.
I got to rewind her because she's very, very low.
Living a more normal teenage life.
We know just by talking to you in the past, just the chilling effect that
We know just by talking to you in the past
you had said this has had on medical reporters after this case is.
that you've had a mandatory reporter. There have been other cases.
Yeah, a lot of the world's watching. This is a very potentially chilling case for mandatory reporting. The very fact that we're being asked to answer for making a call that the court in Sarasota already found was reasonable and necessary when they entered the shelter order. So this does have a chilling effect on mandatory reporting, but hopefully by mandatory reporters seeing that we're willing to stick up for them, not just here in Florida, but nationwide, that it will affirm their duties on behalf of abused and neglected children.
Okay, they didn't just make one call, they made two because the first one was closed. The complaint was closed after the first call. So they didn't just make one call, they made two. Let me just rewind that again.
Necessary when they entered the shelter order. So
Is complete. What do you think will happen from here?
yeah, a lot of the world's watching. This is a very potentially chilling case for mandatory reporting. The very fact that we're being asked to answer for making a call that the court in Sarasota already found was reasonable and necessary when they entered the shelter order. So this does have a chilling effect on mandatory reporting, but hopefully by mandatory reporters seeing that we're willing to stick up for them, not just here in Florida, but nationwide, that it will affirm their duties on behalf of abused and neglected children.
During the trial, we saw a lot of instances where
During this trial, we saw a lot of instances where
seemed to go ahead and answer despite objections being raised. Some answers got through even when they were struck.
you seem to, he's very low too.
Instances where witnesses seemed
Some instances where during objections,
to go ahead and answer despite objections being raised.
witnesses go ahead and answer despite objections being raised.
Answers got through even when they were struck. Are you at all concerned, especially during the parts during the defense phase, that
Are you at all concerned, especially during the defense phase,
inadvertent answers, though they may be struck from the record, may
that inadvertent answers, even though they may be struck from the record, may
affect how the jury considers this case?
affect how the jury considers this case?
Yeah, we hope at the end of the day, the jury considers the case in the totality of why we're here, which is again, providing necessary medical care on behalf of Maya Kowalski, and that in totality, when they're deliberating, they'll be looking at the before and after, the condition Maya came to us in, and the improvement that we've seen since.
Which also, as you know, could be a nature of the disease, right? Waxes and wanes, in and out of remission. But okay.
And so, what can we expect from closing arguments? What can the jury,
And so what can we expect from closing arguments? What can the jury expect to hear?
Yeah, so in closing argument, we plan on walking the jury through a timeline of the care. They've heard a lot of facts so that we can put it in perspective and really show the jury that the downslope of Maya before she came to All Children's, and then the upslope of Maya once we're able to get her on the right medical path.
You seem to be a very engaged jury as well, and we've seen that.
Seems to be a very something jury.
Maya before she came to All Children's, and then the upslope of Maya once we're able to get her on the right medical path.
You seem to be a very engaged jury as well, and we've seen
Seems to be a very, I don't know, I think she said interested jury as well.
through a lot of the questions that they have been asking.
A lot of the questions that they have been asking.
How do you think they'll do when presented with all the evidence?
How do you think they'll do once they're sitting with all of the evidence?
There's so much that they have to go through.
Yeah, so the jury's been engaged, they've been asking questions, and we hope at the end of their deliberations that they see the case as we see it, as an important case for mandatory reporting, and one where they ultimately find that All Children's provided the necessary and compassionate care. Yes.
I think this afternoon we still have the DV,
I think this afternoon we still have some DV
directive verdicts that the judge is going to
directed verdicts that the judge is going to
address. Any concerns going into that?
address. Do you have any concerns going into that?
We're going to make the appropriate motions, and we hope that the judge sees that a lot of the plaintiff's claims just aren't supported by the evidence. And if not, we have confidence that the jury is going to return a verdict in our favor. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Well, there's nothing like confidence. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let's go to the chat for a minute. Hi, Beach Lover 64. Thank you so much for your super sticker chat. This CRPS Navy vet appreciates you all. We appreciate you as well. Sorry about your pain, but thank you for your service, and it's good to see you in here again. Hi, Megan. Thanks so much for your very generous super chat. He should have held off on this comment because he walked back inside, and yep, that's what hit the fan. You are correct. I agree. Oh, Christy, hey, thank you so much for your super sticker. I appreciate you so much, as always. Raising Cane, thank you so much for becoming a new member. Welcome, welcome. Marsha, he's smooth, such a liar. Thank you so much for your very generous super chat. And thank you for sharing your opinions. I think you'll find some like-minded folk here. Amber C, thanks for becoming a member. You're really going to like it here. It's my little cupcakes. Dawn Burke, thank you for your super chat. Sometimes money is not the point. Shine the light on what is wrong with our system. Yes, and that is what we have been doing on this channel. We talk about the tough topics. I am not a cupcake. There's a pink sign here that says, you cannot make everyone happy. You are not a cupcake. There's the logo. I am not a cupcake. Yes, I am a lawyer. I come to you with 30 years experience in New York state and federal courts as a trial attorney. I did civil litigation, somebody asked in the chat, including all of the cases against the Catholic Church on behalf of the victims and or survivors of clergy SA here on Long Island in New York, where I was practicing. I am now what I call a recovering lawyer, because once a lawyer, always a lawyer, but I've pivoted to legal commentary analysis. I'm a YouTuber. I'm also a working actor and mother of 5. So when you come to this channel, you get all of those viewpoints from me. I'm going to have opinions. I'm going to share them. It's not a neutral channel. If you want a neutral channel, you could go watch I don't know, a lot of other channels on YouTube that have just, photo montages with robot or AI type voices narrating them. And if you want my opinions, I'm happy to share them. We welcome respectful debate. Just don't be nasty to each other, to me, to my guests, and welcome. Miranda Lee, love this chat community. All the support and kindness is so appreciated. People need to feel supported and validated. Disavow medical gaslighting. Yes, yes. The other night, I did a live stream with Dr. Kave, who has a channel called Medical Secrets on YouTube, and he did a video about medical gaslighting, and so many of you sent it to me that I called him and asked him to come on the show, and he came on the show, and I thought that was a great show. If anybody saw that and you liked it, please let me know in the chat. But that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to shine a light on some of these things that are so unfair that need to be discussed. The fact that a private DCF system can strip you of your parental rights within a matter of days as a parent based on a false allegation of factitious disorder on behalf of the parent, even after all the treating doctors confirmed Maya's diagnosis, and it was in the court computer. It was in the hospital computer, and they had inserted a port in her for the K infusions that they were now saying was medical CA. There's a lot of issues with this case. I'm glad that there's so much more attention on it now, and so many more people are interested in hearing about it now than they were when I first started reporting on this case, right before the trial started. So thanks to you guys also for bringing awareness to this. I'm wearing orange today because somebody told me that tomorrow everyone should wear orange. It's CRPS Awareness Month. So I'm sharing that out there too. Hi, Nancy Joe M. Thank you for your super chat. Shapiro's a puppet. He says what Hunter tells him to stay. I wonder how long he's been with that firm. He must be a partner, but I don't know how long he's been there. Hi, Noni lady. Thanks for becoming a member. Welcome. We love having you. Hey, Sarah. Oh, Sarah, thank you so much for your super chat. I love the bouquets behind you. Embarrassing to say, I tried to replicate in my house and now realize you have patience. I do not. Well, look, this one over here is an orchid, and they live forever, and they really 3 ice cubes a week. That's all you have to do with an orchid. So when it dies, I throw it away. But for $10 or whatever I paid for that orchid, it's great, and it lasts a long time. So listen, I don't have a green thumb at all, but thank you for that. And Hope, awesome. Thanks for becoming a new member. We love our members. You guys are the best. Okay. Now I'm going to show you something that you might not like. Somebody asked, where was that question? I had another question that I highlighted about settlement. Why are they settling if they didn't think they did anything wrong? And I'm just going to tell you that settlement is always a business decision, always. Whether they think they're at fault or not, a lot of times they will settle because they need to weigh out the costs of what it's going to cost to try the case and, the bad press and all of the other things that can go into a very long trial like this against what it would cost to settle the case. So 98% of cases are settled, only really 2% go to trial. So, the trials that we see on the civil side, they're kind of few and far between, unless people want to make a point, Hi, Jason. The Facebook groups about this case is full of people that want to challenge or refute any and everything you say. I wouldn't recommend it. Yeah, I don't do Facebook. I mean, I don't. Facebook it just triggers me. I don't like it. There's a lot of things about Facebook I don't like. I like Instagram because it used to be you could just go on there and look at pretty pictures of sunsets and stuff. But now that they have the whole Reels thing, I really don't look at that either. I recommend if anybody has, even any sort of mild mental health issues or just anxiety of any kind, just get off social media altogether. There's really nothing good on there. YouTube is fine, but hi Leah. She doesn't do Facebook either. And I find, that group is disturbing. In fact, somebody said that Shapiro's wife is in one of those Facebook groups, and she apparently posts a lot of things, right? You guys know about that? Interesting. Yes. Maloney's Law. Hey, yeah, wait a second. Hold on. The chat is moving so quickly that when I try to highlight something, it goes away. Goes away. I will find it and I will highlight it. But so for those of you who are just tuning in that did not watch the live stream yesterday, there was supposed to be a deposition on Friday, and the defendant was supposed to produce someone with knowledge with regard to all of these CMS reports and the Joint Commission reports. And we don't know if that deposition was actually held because it was supposed to be held at 4:00 on Friday. And when I looked in the court file, I saw that at 3 p.m., the defendant filed a motion for clarification with a 178-page motion and exhibits that are under seal with the clerk. They also filed a confidential affidavit of a witness by the name of Angela Green. And they also marked those exhibits attached and the affidavit as confidential. There's a lot of misinformation going on in other chats saying that there has been an order to unseal them, that they are not really confidential, that the clerk said, but that's not accurate. So please don't get caught up in that. The clerk of the court says that they were not compliant in filing these confidential documents and that they have 10 days to cure or make a motion. This case is not going to go on for another 10 days. So based on that motion for clarification, I agree, Kimmy. That's funny because the judge told them exactly what he wants. Yeah. Yep. Laura, the judge gave Clicky Pen Woman. I don't know her name either. Is she the one who's clicking the pen all the time? Making me crazy. He wanted everything from 2012. How much clearer can he be? I don't know. Oh yeah, watch her. Wait until tomorrow morning. It's gonna be fireworks. Megan's ready. She's got her alarm set for 8:15. I feel bad for you guys on the West Coast. Are you gonna get up at 5:15 and watch it? You guys suggested to me that I do nightly recaps tomorrow and Tuesday because the Law and Lumber is not going to be around. So I'll do that. If you guys want to come over, we can do it. Let me know. Let me know what you think. Okay, Deb, good intel. Deb Galloway says, from what I heard, that depot was behind locked doors and would not be released to the public. No, yeah, I know, but was it held based on that motion for clarification? Because they're saying maybe they're saying we don't even want anybody to have to testify about this stuff, Judge. We want you to look at it in camera to tell us what the witness should have to testify about. And they attached an affidavit by someone named Angela Green, who maybe was the witness they were going to produce. I don't know, but you can bet that the Zoom calls were flying around because that judge is not going to be happy. Hello, mom of 6. Thank you so much for your very, very generous super chat, $50. Sorry, Melanie, I can't wear orange, boomer. Who's the boomer, me or you? Anybody can wear orange. Orange is a great color for everyone. Hey, Sarah Adams, are you really on my ADHD stream going to get me to change the subject on this? For $2, super chat. Thank you so much, sweetheart. Did you hear Matthew Perry's death investigated as a robbery? ROB, is that what you're saying? No, I didn't. And I can't switch gears right now, but I will look into that. That's the stream that got demonetized the other night where we were talking about loving an alcoholic and the pain of loving an alcoholic and how we were mourning Matthew Perry's death. We all lost a friend. Go back and check that out if you've ever been in that situation. If you know, you know. Amber C, thank you for your super chat. I don't understand how parents can have rights taken for treatment given by other providers. If JH had issues, shouldn't they be pursuing Maya's doctors? Yes, that's the problem with this case, you guys. That is the problem. This is not a case like Gypsy Rose. And I did a whole other live stream on the Gypsy Rose case. Because Gypsy Rose, Blanchard, if anybody watched the Hulu, I think it also was a Hulu series. Gypsy Rose was the victim of real Munchausen's. And her mother kept her in a wheelchair and told people she had all kinds of diseases, and they were scamming money from people, and they had a house built for them. And that's a real case of MBP. This is the case where they disagreed with the medical treatment that these parents had chosen for their daughter based upon medical doctors. It's a problem, in my opinion. It's a scary thing as a parent to every time you go to the hospital wonder like, oh, what if they don't like that? It's really scary. And there are so many other cases like this, so many other cases that did involve Sally Smith, and so many other cases throughout the state of Florida that we could talk about this for an entire 3 hours, and we may go back into some of those other cases because so many of you were kind enough to send me. Tampa Bay Times, I think, did a whole expose on it. In addition to all of the children that died in JHatch in the cardiac unit and the millions of dollars that were paid out. Hi from the UK. Hi, Christina. Thank you so much for your super chat. Love my commentary. Thank you. I'm an acquired taste, kind of like sushi, I guess. Either you like me or you don't. And if you don't, that's okay. You don't have to come. You don't have to watch. That's all. There's a lot of other channels you could watch. Okay, now I want to show you. I'm going to show you something that the jury is not going to see. If I can find it. And that is the order, the court order. And I'm going to trigger warn you right now. Trigger warning you right now. I'm going to read it to you. It's 6 pages. This is the order that released Maya to her father after Beata took her own life. All right. Can everybody see that? I know it's kind of small, but. This is the, in the Circuit Court of the 12th Judicial Circuit in and for Sarasota County, Florida, in the interest of Maya Kowalski, a child, as the case number. This is the order changing placement status, discharging child from hospital into interim care of father, setting hearing to review father's treatment plan compliance, and order for mediation. As required by court order. I just want to make sure, hold on one second, that the frame is okay for you. Yeah. As required by court order, the parties appeared on January 12th, 2017 to consider reunification and or dismissal of the petition for dependency. The hearing was set on notice of the death of the mother, Beata Kowalski, on January 7th, 2017. Appearing at the hearing were David Silverstein, attorney for DCF, Deborah Salisbury, attorney for father, Mark Silverstein, attorney for Maya. Mark Silverstein, attorney for Maya, and Jared Monahan, attorney for the Guardian Ad Litem program. Also in attendance was Howard Hunter, counsel for Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital. Anybody surprised by that? Hunter was there. He was participating in this hearing. On the day of the hearing, father's counsel filed a sworn motion to dismiss the dependency petition. It was not heard as DCF objected that it had insufficient time to review the motion and to determine if a traverse was appropriate. As a consequence of the mother's death, the focus of the hearing evolved to the issue of releasing the child to Nemours Children's Hospital in Orlando or to the father. This was not the first time the subject of the proper facility for Maya's discharge was before the court. On December 22nd and 29th, 2016, the parties appeared at hearings for the purpose of discussing placement options. Maya has been a patient at JHatch since the middle of October 2016, when she was sheltered and placed in DCF's legal custody. For some time, the hospital, DCF, and the Guardian Ad Litem have agreed the child should be transferred to a different facility, one better equipped to address the complex medical issues facing the child. JHatch's medical staff strongly recommends that Maya be discharged to an inpatient facility. The hospital's position is that the best prospects for improvement are with intense physical rehabilitation and psychotherapy that only such a facility can provide. The parents are equally insistent that the child can be the parents, see, they're still saying parents, even though Beata is gone. The parents are equally insistent that the child can be appropriately treated at home, together with outpatient physical therapy and mental health counseling. At the December hearings, the parents were willing to forego the controversial K injections and adopt less aggressive pain remediation regimens while the case was pending. Dr. Catherine Major, a pediatric hospitalist and member of Maya's treatment team at JHatch, testified at the hearing on December 29th that the child requires 4 or 5 hours of daily intensive physical therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy at a skilled facility, and this can best be provided in the residential setting. The hospital is not able to provide this level of treatment. The parents say they took Maya to JHatch in October because she was in severe pain and non-responsive to their doctor's recommended K treatment regimen. Before that admission, they contend they were providing a high level of care for their daughter, following the medical advice of Dr. Ashraf Hanna, a Tampa pain management physician with knowledge, a Tampa pain management physician knowledgeable in the field of CRPS. It was he, they say, who had approved K in the dosages Maya received at home and for a week in Mexico where a K-induced coma was induced. Dr. Hanna supported the parents' representation when he testified in court at a prior hearing. So just to break for 1 second, Dr. Hanna testified in front of the dependency court. The parents and the child's pain doctor say separation of Maya from her family is causing her to be angry and depressed, that she needs water therapy and less rigorous physical therapy than JHatch suggests, and that the mode of treatment recommended by the hospital is not only contraindicated but harmful. They are confident Maya is suffering from CRPS and not the other conditions suspected by the hospital. At the heart of the controversy is the cause of Maya's condition. There is wide divergence in working diagnoses. Dr. Sally Smith, a pediatrician and member of the Pinellas County Child Protection Team, whose opinion is respected by the hospital, suspects factitious disorder, also known as Munchausen by proxy syndrome, implicating the mother. Others at JHatch, like Dr. Major, have diagnosed conversion disorder, like largely a psychosomatic condition, and the latter is represented to be the hospital's current discharge diagnosis. Both sides say they know what is best for Maya and are insistent the other's position is medically unsound. Based on testimony in court from treating physicians at several hearings, one may conclude the experts' opinions are antipodal on the core issue. On December 22nd, the court asked the parties to report back on December 29th with options for placement, assuming Maya were discharged from JHatch pending trial. At the latter hearing, the court was informed that no inpatient facilities could be located in the state of Florida willing to accept a child as medically complex as Maya. Early in the case, preliminary approval had been obtained for her to transfer to Nemours Children's Hospital in Orlando, but placement stalled when the parents objected to the admitting diagnosis. It later declined to accept the patient. In December, Brooks Rehabilitation Hospital in Jacksonville was approached. It too declined. There's a footnote, and the footnote says, the litigious history of this case, as well as the medical complexities, may contribute to the rehabilitation facility's reluctance to accept Maya's case. At the hearing on December 29th, DCF suggested Cincinnati Children's Hospital or Kennedy Krieger Institute in Baltimore, among other inpatient facilities that specialize in treating children like Maya. The hospital's attorney, Howard Hunter, who was instrumental in identifying these facilities, explained that a number of steps were necessary to determine if they would accept Maya, and it could take a couple of weeks for the hospitals to work through the bureaucracies to get a response. He was directed to use his best efforts to expedite the process and to inform the court of the progress at the status hearing set for January 6th of 2017. At that later hearing, it was disclosed that the out-of-state options were not viable. The parents object to any out-of-state options, saying this would further remove Maya from her family and friends, as well as provide the wrong treatment modality. They proposed as Plan A that Maya be returned home with treatment provided locally in Sarasota County. Plan B was for outpatient options in Gainesville, Naples, or Orlando. These involved Maya and her father residing in Ronald McDonald houses and engaging in rehabilitative services and psychological counseling at facilities in the community. Maya would be transported to therapies by her father and followed by Dr. Hanna in Tampa and Dr. Wassenauer, Maya's favored pediatrician who practices in Osprey. These options were feasible because the mother was available to stay in Sarasota and care for Kyle, Maya's younger brother. At the time of the January 6th hearing, after review of the options, and because the adjudicatory hearing was set for February 20th of 2017, the court concluded the most prudent course was to maintain the status quo and keep Maya at J-Hatch pending trial. Then DCF would have the opportunity to prove its case of medical child abuse, or the child would go home. However, the mother's death has profoundly altered the, quote, maintain status quo, end quote, alternative. Based on its assessment of Maya's condition, J-Hatch continues to recommend inpatient treatment and asserts only such a facility has the expertise to address the patient's complex needs. As noted, Nemours was ruled out as a discharge option for Maya early in the case. However, at the hearing on January 12th, hospital's counsel advised that after recent discussions, the facility had reconsidered and now was willing to accept the child. After review of the parties' discharge recommendations and the divergent testimony taken from medical and mental health experts at prior hearings, the only practical option at this time is to discharge Maya to the care of her father, pending trial, with the treatment plan as outlined in this order. The court is reluctant to go against the medical advice of the hospital, but the exigencies of this case and its view of what is in Maya's best interests at this time compels it to do so. The court concedes that returning Maya to her home is contrary to the recommendation of J-Hatch's medical staff, who have been treating her for 3 months. However, it is the court's judgment that the hospital's concern that less intensive treatment will retard or harm Maya's recovery is overridden by the benefits that may be gained by returning the child to her family, at least for the time between now and the adjudicatory hearing. This is an interim arrangement that recognizes the outpatient approach may have to revert to inpatient, depending on the evidence adduced at the adjudicatory hearing. The court notes the Guardian Ad Litem program concurs with Maya returning home and is obviously supported by the patient. The following factors have contributed to this conclusion. 1. Nemours Children's Hospital is in Orlando, 145 miles from the Kowalski home in Venice. While it would provide the intensive therapies J-Hatch recommends, Maya's exile from her family, which has already lasted over 90 days, will continue, adding to her depression and treatment intransigence. Mr. Kowalski's ability to have personal contact with his daughter would be severely restricted. Such contact is helpful, if not essential, in Maya reaching maximum medical improvement. He is now a single parent who lives in Venice, and his obligations as caretaker for Kyle would preclude his active participation in her rehabilitation. For these reasons, the outpatient options proposed by the parents in Gainesville, Orlando, and Naples are also excluded. If the father were living at Ronald McDonald houses in any of those locations, there would be no parent to care for Maya's sibling at home. 2. The psychological evaluation of Mr. Kowalski revealed no issues of concern. So the psychologist concluded he poses no risk to his children. Moreover, Dr. Sally Smith's conclusion that there was, quote, strong evidence, end quote, of Munchausen by proxy affecting Maya's medical condition, pointed the finger at Beata Kowalski, not her husband. If Munchausen by proxy was truly a contributing cause, The most likely causative agent no longer poses a threat. And that was DCF's preliminary concern precipitating the shelter. In addition, it is J. Hatch's position that Beata was an underlying cause of Maya's illness. This opinion is the foundation for the strict rules prohibiting her personal contact with Maya while she was hospitalized. The need for such extreme measures is dissipated with the passing of Mrs. Kowalski. Finally, what is dispositive on the discharge issue is the emotional toll on Maya, were she to remain hospitalized, and the impact continued separation would have given the recent family tragedy. She just lost her mother, with whom she had a very close and loving relationship. She has an antagonistic relationship with hospital personnel, is oppositional, angry, and is refusing to comply with staff directions. On the recommendation of the hospital, enforced by court order, contact with her family has been severely restricted. She has been deprived of meaningful educational opportunities, holiday celebrations, free communication with friends and relatives, and frequent access to the comforts offered by her Catholic religion. She now needs to grieve with the support of family and friends. This cannot be provided in a hospital environment, nor can it occur in a facility in Orlando. Despite the best efforts of J. Hatch to address her needs, and without attributing blame to the facility or the Kowalskis, the hostility between Maya and the hospital has progressed to the point that further treatment there has become pointless. Improvement into her condition has stalled in neutral. While there may be a risk that the outpatient treatment she will receive as a result of this order will be substandard or misdirected with the treatment plan required herein, the hiatus from inpatient treatment should not be harmful and may prove beneficial pending trial. Just going to check in with the chat here because I'm like, I have the order up on my screen. Make sure you guys are okay. You guys okay? You doing all right? Okay, I know this is hard to hear. Now, therefore, on its own motion, the court orders, A, Maya Kowalski shall be discharged from Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital into the interim care of Jack Kowalski as soon as practicable, but no later than 5 p.m. Wednesday, January 18th of 2017. The parties shall cooperate to select the time of discharge. The hospital shall provide a discharge summary to the parties with its diagnosis, a list of Maya's current medications, and recommendations for treatment. This discharge is by court order after finding good cause and that the change is in the child's best interest, at least for the near term. The objections of DCF and the hospital are duly noted, respected, but overruled. B. The court has previously granted permission for the child to be transported to Rhode Island to be examined by Dr. Pradeep Chopra, an expert identified by the parents as an expert in CRPS. This visit is authorized under such conditions as Mr. Kowalski deems necessary and appropriate and shall be at his expense. He is at liberty to choose the persons to accompany the child and to arrange all details for transportation. However, the child shall not be out of the state of Florida for this evaluation for more than 72 hours. A travel itinerary shall be provided to the parties no less than 24 hours prior to departing Sarasota County. The father shall inform the parties of the date and time of return. He is responsible for the medical care and protection of Maya while on the visit and prior to trial. Adverse medical events affecting the child at any time, including during the trip, shall be reported promptly to the parties. Except for the visit to Rhode Island, the child shall not leave the state of Florida without the prior consent of the parties or the court. A separate order for this out-of-state evaluation is not required. C. The father has asked the court for permission for Maya to attend the funeral and related services for her mother. Except for the admonition that she shall not be overtaxed physically or emotionally, he may involve her in such activities as she is able to safely tolerate. He shall inform the parties immediately of any hospitalizations or significant deteriorations in her condition. He shall sign such consents as may be necessary for DCF to confirm Maya's progress in treatment. D. The child may reside with the father, but she remains subject to the legal custody of DCF and the jurisdiction of the court. E. The following treatment plan shall be implemented by the father for Maya pending trial or further court order. 1. No K shall be administered. Absent a court order, psychotropic drugs must be approved by the guardian ad litem and DCF prior to being administered. The father shall keep a list of all medications prescribed for Maya. 2. Counseling shall be commenced with Rebecca Johnson, MS, who shall be advised of the hospital's diagnosis or of conversion disorder. Ms. Johnson shall be encouraged to consult with Dr. Tashwana K. Duncan, who has recently completed a psychological evaluation of the child. 3. The use of phones, tablets, or computers by Maya shall be as directed by the father. 4. Treatment by Dr. Hannah is authorized, subject to the K restriction. 5. Treatment shall be commenced with agility physical therapy and may include water or other such therapies as may be medically indicated. Alternative therapies may be engaged by the father if recommended by a treating physician. 6. Dr. John Wassenaar, MD, pediatrician, shall evaluate Maya within 10 days of discharge, report his findings to the parties, and provide such additional services as the father and Maya may require. 7. The father shall contact the school board of Sarasota County to arrange for such educational opportunities as may be available, given her medical limitations. F. The court reserves the option to order a change of placement of the child to an inpatient facility or medical foster home on a showing that Maya's condition has worsened or adverse medical events have occurred, requiring such a change. DCFs shall attempt to locate appropriate facilities or medical foster homes capable of accepting Maya as a patient on short notice. G. The father shall facilitate the guardian ad litem's access to all of Maya's medical, psychological, and educational records and permit the GAL to visit the home and have private conversations with the child. DCF's case manager shall also have access to Maya to observe her condition and progress in therapy. H. The parties shall appear for a status conference to review the father's compliance with the treatment plan, Maya's transition and progress on Monday, January 30th, 2017 at 9:30 a.m. I. The parties are ordered to mediate this case prior to the adjudicatory hearing at a time convenient to them. Done and ordered in Sarasota, Florida, this 13th day of January, 2017, signed Lee E. Haworth, Senior Circuit Judge. And you note that it was served on Howard Hunter and Ethen Shapiro, attorneys for J Hatch, in addition to all the other attorneys on the list. All right, everybody take a deep breath. And I'm going to go back through the chat. Oh, thank you, Margie, for the super sticker. Love Melanie in chat. Always a safe place. It is. I'm glad you feel that way. Oh, Laura, thank you so much for the super sticker. I appreciate you. Well, this is something the jury is not going to see, and I think it's something that a lot of us were not aware of. And soon after this petition was withdrawn, and Jack did get permanent custody. But you see that even then, even after Beata was gone, the hospital still came into court to oppose Maya's discharge, to oppose Maya being released to her dad. Yeah, Diana. Oh, now she needs to grieve. They worry about her mental health now, right? I have a questions. Smith bragged about the private DCS system in Florida, calling it a model for the rest of the country, which made me so mad. It doesn't work for prisons. Why would you do it, families? I don't know, you know, follow the money. Follow the money. Tally Smith's firm did not make money unless they were needed, unless they took kids away. It's just a fact. Come for me in the comments. Come for me in the comments. I welcome it. I have merch that says that. And Bozzarelli, wow, how sad. Beata giving everything for her child. Yeah. Sassy girl. It sounds like they're celebrating her death. That's crazy. Yes, Nikki, I agree. Court will be very interesting tomorrow. Watch her. Maya hasn't gone to any doctors because now she's afraid of them all. That's right. She testified to that. We could look at her damages testimony if you guys want to. Hi, Megan. If I weren't on a plane right now, I just might have driven down to Tampa just to see. I couldn't sit there all day, but it would be interesting to see. It's in Sarasota, actually. But the courtroom is public. Anybody who wants to go there can go. The courtroom has not been very crowded from what I see. There's plenty of seats. Little Lamb says, just imagine an 8-year-old girl spent 3 months in the hospital with little support from any advocate. Actually, she was 10, right? But yeah. Yeah. She was imprisoned and isolated. False imprisonment is one of the causes of action that is still standing. Dana says dad was the one who brought her to the hospital. You are correct. Misty Ann, did anyone notice how Hunter was fussing at Shapiro when issues came up with witness Anderson? And attorney Anderson came down on him, which documents the defense provided him and what he testified to. Yes, and we did his testimony. I did an episode called Battle of the Experts where we looked at Dr. Corcoran's original testimony and we looked at Dr. Anderson's testimony. And we put them up against each other in the same show. And it was very interesting. And yeah, all he had to prepare, Dr. Anderson, was a 3-page summary provided to him by the defense firm. And when he brought up the Joint Commission reports in his testimony, that's when attorney Greg Anderson for the plaintiff was able to cross-examine him about those Joint Commission reports. And that's why we have such a major issue right now. Because the hospital was placed in immediate jeopardy in 2019 with a 3-year look back to 2016. So this is it could be the smoking gun. And we still don't know if that deposition took place yesterday. Does anybody have any inside intel on that? Let's go back and see. Sarah, their position, quite frankly, is still freaking confusing to me. I mean, it's like they can't have it both ways. They can't say, yes, she had CRPS, and we kept her in the hospital for 90 days because we thought she was a victim of Munchausen's and she really didn't have CRPS. And then yet they billed the insurance company over $500,000 for CRPS treatment. So it can't be both. Would you agree with me that it can't be both? I mean, if it's confusing me and I'm an attorney for 30 years, imagine how confusing it is to the average juror. And these jurors are really smart, really smart. Megan, great point. I asked him tomorrow morning, Mr. Hunter, is your back pain a 10 or 5 today? Yeah, wasn't he out of court one day? The court that the day that Dr. Anderson testified, he wasn't in court because he had a problem with his back and he went to the doctor. So he understands chronic pain, right? Pualani Casey, They wanted this troubled teen to be restrained and medically restrained, meaning drugged to keep her there. We legally couldn't. The social worker for CPS chewed me out. I don't know. You guys must have been having a private conversation. So let's see. Yes, I agree with you, Anna Jane. Why did they continue to write as if she had parents when rather than the one she had actually left? I don't know. Nobody proofread that. It was kind of insensitive. But yes, I agree. Miranda, blows my mind that Hunter has pain needing to sit during his examination, but it's impossible for him to understand pain. Yeah. Let's see. You guys are having private conversations. Are there any questions for me? Let's see. Oh, thank you from an ER nurse, Pualani Casey. I'm an ER nurse, and I can say that it does not have a chilling effect on mandatory reporting. However, I worked on a CPS case last week, and I was horrified by what CPS wanted us to do. That's interesting. Yes, I have questions. This is an excellent point, and this is what we've been talking about a lot. A low-income parent would stand no chance in court against this hospital. You are correct. They have all the resources. They have all the doctors. They have medical experts at the ready. And the Kowalskis had to sell their second home to pay for an attorney. They spent, I think, at least $40,000. You can correct me if I'm wrong, maybe more, to hire an attorney to fight this in court and to hire experts and to get their doctors to come in. I'm sure that Dr. Hanna came in gratis. I don't think he charged them, but the fact of the matter is they had her CRPS diagnosis from the day she entered the hospital. She had been there before for CRPS treatments. And if you don't think it's frightening that because a hospital disagrees with your course of treatment for your child, that they can haul you into court and make false allegations and strip you of your parental rights, think again, because it can happen. It's happening every day, and something needs to change. Because you're right, parents who don't have a lot of money that can't afford attorneys, guess what happens to them? Well, there's one guy named John Stewart who spent 300 days in jail based on false allegations by Sally Smith when she accused him of beating up his girlfriend's child. And I think it resulted in a death, but eventually those charges were dropped. That's what happens. Hi, Missy. I hope they will eventually find a cure for this disease. I do too. And yeah, thank you, Missy, for buying a Team Maya shirt. I have Team Maya merch linked below, and 100% of the proceeds are going to go to CRPS research. So we're trying to do a little something here. If you guys are interested, it's cute. The t-shirts and hats are really cute. So that is what we are trying to do, a little something here anyway. Night Owl, they wanted her institutionalized alone and without her parents to protect her. And they experimented on Maya. What they did was criminal in my book. I hope they pay big. Yes, but there is this thing called Chapter 39. So why don't we just take a little look at Chapter 39? Because they keep talking about Chapter 39, but I have a feeling that a lot of people don't know what Chapter 39 is. So I'm going to tell you what Chapter 39 is, and I'm even going to put it up on the screen here so we can look at it together if you would like to do that. Okay, this is Chapter 39. But now I can't read it, so give me a second here to fix this. Okay, this is Chapter 39 in Florida. And Chapter 39.203 provides for immunity from liability in cases of child abuse, abandonment, or neglect. And it provides, paragraph 1A, any person, official, or institution participating in good faith in any act authorized or required by this chapter, or reporting in good faith any instance of CA, abandonment, or neglect to the department or any law enforcement agency shall be immune from any civil or criminal liability which might otherwise result by reason of such action. So there you go, immunity. So I don't know why Shapiro's out there being the champion of mandatory reporters when they are protected. They're protected. They have immunity. And then it says here also in 2B, any person making a report under this section shall have a civil cause of action for appropriate compensatory and punitive damages against any person who causes detrimental changes in the employment status of such reporting party by reason of his or her making such report. Any detrimental change made in the residency or employment status of such person, including but not limited to discharge, termination, demotion, transfer, or reduction in pay or benefits or work or privileges, or negative evaluations within a prescribed period of time, shall establish a rebuttable presumption that such action was retaliatory. So if you, any person may, that is chapter 39. And that's what they keep talking about. Chapter 39, can't bring it in. Everybody has immunity. They're saying it was good faith. It was made in good faith. Yeah. Hi, Carol. Thank you from all with chronic pain and or CRPS. You have much empathy for us, and please know that you have shed a lot on the subject in a very difficult situation. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Carol, for watching. And I am sorry. I'm sorry for your constant pain. I know how horrible it is. Wow. Mom of 6, you have one more child than I do. God bless you. I've been worried about Maya. I was so angry because the defense brought in papers that were displayed on the big screen regarding her mother's death last week when she was there to testify. Yeah. Chloe's mom, this is so unfair. Yeah, it is. Trishy 818, we need to be able to sue hospitals, CPS, etc. They need accountability. Hi, Diva Cassandra, but is in good faith what they actually did? I would argue no. I would argue no, they didn't do it in good faith. That's my argument. Because they called twice. The first time they called was on October 7th when she was admitted or when she came into the ER. And they were concerned when Beata came in and started asking for what they considered to be crazy amounts of K, the drug that we can't say on this channel. After DCF investigated and spoke to, I think it was either Dr. Kirkpatrick, Hannah, or Wassenauer, that she indeed did have CRPS, which is what Beata was telling them. That complaint was closed. But then I think it was, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Tepa Sanchez called in Sally Smith when there was no complaint pending. So there was really nothing for Sally Smith to investigate. And Sally Smith, told them to make another call. So Tepa Sanchez made a second call to the child abuse hotline. And that's what led to all of this. So I would say, my argument, if I were the attorney, I would say this was not made in good faith, Your Honor. They knew she had CRPS. They installed a port in her, for God's sake, for these K treatments that they knew that she was undergoing. And now they want to turn around and say, it's not real? It's a real slippery slope, you guys. Real slippery slope. Hi, Marta. Marta, thank you so much for your email today. Yes, I'm correct. Thank you, Marta. And Sally Smith accessed the records before there was authorization to do so. Yes. Hi, Julia. I don't have CRPS, but do have fibromyalgia, which is also painful. I have used EMS and like it, although that can be painful in and of itself. Lacey Ann, they narrated their notes to fit the call too. Yeah. Hi, Kimberly. Thanks for being a member. Sally Smith has ruined so many lives. Yeah. I have an article on it. I have another show planned on it. There are a lot of families out there, including Elena Kushner, who is the woman that came in to testify with a Ukrainian, I believe, I think it was a Ukrainian interpreter. And she was only able to testify about Sally Smith wearing a lab coat when she came to see them in the hospital in 2018. But the same thing happened to her family. And they have a pending lawsuit represented by the same exact law firms that we're seeing in this case. Can you explain the clerk's response, please? I thought she stated these don't qualify for confident. Yeah, but she's just the, she's not just the clerk, but like the clerk is here. The clerk is an elected official who may say, I don't think it falls under, I'll pull it up if you guys want to see it. I don't think it falls under the requirements of what has to be confidential, and therefore I'm giving you notice. I'm going to pull it up for you right here. I'm getting better at this, you guys. Pulling stuff up. Look at me. Technologically, not as. Okay, so here's what the clerk said. The Sarasota clerk of the circuit court has reviewed your filing dated November 3rd, 2023, which was identified by you as containing confidential information. And then he or she, I think it's a she, has the opportunity to check one of two boxes. And she checked the box that says the clerk has determined that the information in this document is not subject to confidentiality, as noted in Florida Rule of Judicial Administration 2.420 D1B. This record shall not be held as confidential for more than 10 days from the date of this mailing, unless a motion is filed pursuant to subdivision D3 of the Florida Rule of Judicial Administration 2.420. So they have the opportunity to file a motion. And if they don't file that motion, the clerk says that she'll unseal them within 10 days, says that she sent it to Howard Hunter. And this was filed at 7 p.m. on Friday night. So everybody's working overtime on this case. So basically she's saying, I don't think it's confidential. You have 10 days to cure it. It's not, this case is not going to go on for another 10 days. And they also, by the way, did file a motion. So whether that's included in this motion for clarification that we looked at yesterday and the affidavit, response, it may be included in there. We don't have access to that because those things were sealed. She doesn't think they should be sealed. The judge might think so, though. And the judge will probably rule on that tomorrow. Thanks, Chloe's mom, for your encouragement. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. I'm trying over here. I'm a one-woman show. So, that's all I got. Jay Smith, I guess you're catching up here. Maya walks into the courtroom because they did not manage to unalive her at JH. Great point, you guys. But, I know that we are all kind of on the same page here, but I almost feel like we're in the minority. I mean, I see, and I have not watched Court TV since you guys told me what they're doing to Maya on Court TV. But I have seen a couple of other things where they have these think tanks on there on other cases, and they are so insensitive and they have no idea what they're talking about. It's scary. And the live chats on other channels like Court TV and Law and Crime and even Tampa 13, I think, is doing it. The live chats in there are toxic. You know it. You've seen it. Most of you have gone over to watch it on Recovery Addict because he's got moderators that, police the chat and don't allow the toxicity. It's crazy. Island. Court TV completely misrepresent what's happening in court. It's almost like their guests don't even watch the coverage. It was crazy. Court TV, long crime. Yeah, Daily Quick Bites, if you want to put it that way. You're cool. Yes, Carmen, that's right. That's why we have Recovery Addict. Yeah, he's doing a great job. Well, that's interesting, Cat Lady. There was definitely a large vocal majority during the trial, but since the IJ, it's been quiet. Has it? Because that really didn't happen until like Thursday, right? And like Friday, it probably didn't have a lot of viewers because it was a lot of jury instruction discussions and stuff. So I don't know. Tampa 13 is not toxic. Okay, good. Another safe space. Or you know what? Just turn off the chat if you're going to watch it. If it's going to trigger you, just turn the chat off. Right, Mark. We went over that motion last night if you weren't here. Mark says getting rid of intelligent jurors now. Yeah. We went over that motion last night and the response. And I don't think they're going to I don't think that the judge is going to let that juror go. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think it's it would be appropriate. I think it could be reversible error if he does excuse the juror, though. So, you know, you can't pick a jury and then say, oh, I don't like the way this juror is asking questions, so they must be biased. It's just doesn't make any sense to me. We don't, in New York, we don't let the jury ask questions. So this is all new to me too. And listen, if you're gonna let the jury ask questions, you can't get mad if by the way their questions are worded, you think they're not on your side. You had the opportunity to voir dire every juror there, and you picked them. So, and from my understanding, what a lot of you said to me last night is a lot of those questions that they brought on in their motion were questions that were never even asked of the witnesses. So, you know, that's a little tenuous too. Sassy girl says nothing was done in good faith. All their testimonies showed anger. Exactly, Sarah. If they had their mind made up, why would they be asking questions? You are correct. I mean, you know, the judge could call the juror in and question the juror and then make a decision. And if he just says to the juror, can you be fair? Have you made up your mind yet? Are you still being impartial? Are you still waiting to hear closing arguments before you decide this case? And the juror says yes. I mean, what really can he do? Hi, Betsy. The jury did great on cross. Yes, the jury did. The jury asked a lot of questions that we wanted to know the answers to that the attorneys either forgot to ask or were not allowed to ask. So yes, exactly. Exactly, Mary Kay Sugarman. When you allow jurors to ask questions, you can't complain about the questions they ask. Well said. And right. Right, Nikki, that's the funny part. They picked this jury. They did. Gotta remember this is Florida, says Patricia. That's what I said. It's the wild, wild south of Florida. Ray says, I think questioning the juror might actually anger the jury. Yeah, you're right. It could backfire. It could backfire. Hi, Jen. As an attorney, I would absolutely not want to have juror questions. No, because as an attorney, it's my job to get the evidence out that I want out. And when you let the jury ask questions like that, you're opening the floodgates to a lot of things that you might not want in evidence, to a lot of things that might not be admissible. I think, I don't know that having a jury ask questions is a great idea. I'm sure if I was sitting on a jury, I would want to ask questions, but as an attorney, I would not want jurors asking questions. No, because you have a roadmap of how you want to present your case. You've got a very specific roadmap, and you have to be able to pivot based on objections being sustained. You have to find another way to ask your questions. It's very, very exhausting, and it's very difficult. So I give Greg Anderson a lot of credit because he's really been carrying the ball this entire trial for the most part. I mean, Whitney comes in every now and then to question a witness, but for the most part, he was the face of this trial. And somebody said that the gentleman that I pointed out before might be a paralegal. He might be. I don't know. I was just assuming he was a lawyer, but he may be a paralegal. But I think he's doing a lot of work. Lot of work. Oh, Marta says you don't have to be there until 12:15 tomorrow. All right. Do you guys want to watch some of the damages testimony of Maya from the beginning of the trial so we can get a refresh on what she testified to? Because as we talked about, the jury's going to have to come up with, if they get past liability, a number on how much they are going to award her. So we can watch a little bit of that because it was so long ago. He testified on damages all the way back on October 13th. That feels like a year ago, doesn't it? Oh, and I want to clear something else up that I've heard a lot. There's a lot of misinformation out there about something about a medical lien being placed on their home. I'm going to tell you what I think they're talking about, and I don't think there's a lien on their house. There's this company out there called Rawlings, and they are a third-party administrator, and their job, the entire business model that they have, is that they go after people who bring lawsuits, who are trying to recover money for their injuries. If the insurance company, the health insurance company, has paid out related to those injuries, Rawlings will send the attorney a letter saying, if you recover money from medical expenses related to this case, we want our money back out of the settlement. So I don't know who's spreading that rumor that there's some sort of a lien on the Kowalski's house, and that's why they can't move. Unless there's a different kind of lien on their house, Rawlings Company, on behalf of the insurance company or Medicare or Medicaid, would never put a lien on their house. It's an impossible thing to do. You have to get a judgment. You'd have to enforce the judgment. You'd have to. It doesn't happen, and it also doesn't happen on primary residences. They're not allowed to do that. What I think they were referring to is that Rawlings has sent a letter saying, we paid X amount of dollars in medical treatment. We understand that you may have a lawsuit regarding this treatment. And if you do recover money for medical expenses by settlement or verdict or otherwise, under the terms of the policy, you're required to pay us back. And for me as a plaintiff's attorney, that is total BS. And you know, I don't like the cursey words on this channel, but that is BS. And it made it so difficult to settle cases for my clients because of these stupid medical liens, how they would want to claw back the money that they spent. But they can be negotiated. They can also be, you can also ask the judge to zet it. But that is their entire business model. That is what they do. There could be a medical lien, but there's no lien on their house. That is just, it's like a game of telephone. Yeah, there could be a lien. They could say that they assert a lien. They could say that they assert one. I would fight it. Yeah, they're not allowed to talk about it. Yeah, they're not allowed to talk about it, but they can say, here's how much the medical treatment was, and the family is going to be responsible to pay that back, and therefore we want you to award this amount of money. Now, if there's a verdict and the verdict does not include any amount of money for the medical expenses that were incurred during the time she was in the hospital, then she doesn't have to pay it back. See how that works? In a settlement, though, it's different because when you settle, typically it's a lump sum. You don't factor out how much is for medical expenses, how much is for pain and suffering, how much is for lost wages. It's a lump sum amount. But in a verdict, it would say, here's the line item for past medical expenses related to that stay. And if they're not awarded an amount of money for those medical expenses, then Rawlings can go scratch as far as I'm concerned. But it makes it difficult to settle cases. Yeah, I don't, right. I don't like it either. Clawbacks can completely negate entire settlements. Well, not if your attorney's a good negotiator. Because if your attorney's a good negotiator, they're never going to settle your case for less than what your lien is, and then you get no money. That would just be terrible. If that happened to you, I'm sorry. I apologize. They will negotiate, but it's a thorn in every plaintiff attorney's side. It's a conditional lien. If they recovered for fraud, there would be a lien placed. I don't know. I think it's if they recover for medical expenses, if that's what the lien is for. Hi, Skoda. I have a pending med mal case. This case is educating me a lot for my own case. Yeah. But I mean, there's a lot of arguments that could be used to try and get rid of that Rawlings lien. So I think it's crap. I think it's crap. And I think it's horrible. I think, after you've suffered enough from some life-changing injury, that the insurance company should be trying to get their money back from you when you finally got a settlement. I don't like it. I don't like it from any case. The lien is from the excess from that insurance didn't cover. The lien is from the insurance they didn't have 100% coverage. No, Rawlings wouldn't get involved in that, because what I heard, thank you, Toffee Sarah, but what I heard was some discussion about Rawlings, and I know that company, and that is what they do specifically for insurance companies. So yeah. So yeah, don't, I hope there's no misinformation out there about there being a lien on their house, because as far as I know, there is no lien on their house. There's something else that I want to address with you. The lien on the house. Oh, also, he said, Shapiro, Anderson said there was no doctor who came in as an expert who examined Maya. Anybody who's ever had a personal injury lawsuit or a medical malpractice lawsuit knows that the defense is entitled to an IME. And you have to go and see their doctor, and their doctor examines you for trial. So why was there no IME doctor for Maya? If I'm wrong, tell me that there was, but does anybody know? I don't know. I'll watch the chat while we turn on some of Maya's testimony. So let's go back. This is day 15 of trial. This is Maya talking about her damages. Please hit the like button. Thank you, whoever said that. And we're going to talk about this a little bit afterwards. We may have to put it on a little bit higher speed.
Maya Kowalski.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
State your name for the record, please.
Maya Kowalski.
And you recall, Maya, that we had you on here before, but we had separated out to have you talk about some of the human damages at this point. And I wanted to go into 3 and really 4 different areas involving your physical and emotional pain and suffering, mental anguish, and the loss of capacity to enjoy life. And then I would like to go into a little bit about the loss of your mom on the wrongful death claim. So I want to start out on physical and emotional pain.
Okay, he's really dragging his speed. So I'm going to put this up to 1.5. You guys, if you think it's too fast, tell me. I know sometimes it's really, I hate watching it when people speed it up, but I think you'll find that it is almost at regular speed because he's very kind of slow in his questioning.
And suffering, and ask you what has happened here has affected you, and do you believe that you do need medical or psychological treatment from time to time?
Most definitely, yes.
And so are there problems about this that you can explain to the jury?
Yes, so I still experience CRPS pain, and unfortunately, I am a little bit scared to seek treatment because of what happened last time, how I ended up at Johns Hopkins. I'm also a little bit afraid to even talk about my pain, 1, because I don't want to worry my dad, and 2, because I don't want people to tell me that I'm faking it.
Is it hard for you to describe symptoms?
It's not hard for me to describe symptoms. It's more so that I'm afraid that they won't be believed.
Is that difficult for you when for so long your statements, your pleas, if you will, about your pain were disregarded, or you were told that they weren't real?
Subject to the leading run overall.
Yes, and I still suffer from that to this day.
To this day,
do you still have any feelings inside where you question yourself if there is an injury or emotional issue?
Yeah, so I told the story a little bit about how I broke my pinky playing football, and I waited a couple of days before I actually went and got help for it. I thought maybe it will go away. I'm just being dramatic, and I kid you not, my pinky was completely to the side. And I actually only sought treatment after my aunt, because she worked at the surgery center, that I went to get it fixed. I was only comfortable knowing that she was in the operating room with me.
Now, the jury would like to know, though, they know that you've seen like a dermatologist and you've been to the dentist, I think.
Correct.
Right. So why are you able, and you were actually admitted into a hospital up at Arnold Palmer, I think, for one of your relapses, were you not?
Yes, I was. So with Arnold Palmer, the first thing that we did was talk to my primary care physician, John Wasner. And when he talked to the hospital individually, that's when I felt comfortable going to the hospital and staying there. If you talk to the doctors, they would tell you that I definitely wanted to get out. I stayed there for a week, and then we continued the rest of the treatment at home. Sorry, what was the first part of that question? I completely forgot.
It was about whether it was physical, and well, first about the dermatologist and the dentist. You've been to those.
Yes. So, I mean, I haven't really been wronged before by a dermatologist or a dentist. Those appointments typically last about an hour, so I feel more comfortable going there.
And also, from your perspective, does it seem likely that your dermatologist or your dentist will try to have you taken away?
Yeah, I don't think like a dentist would ever do that, and I've never heard of such a thing.
So how are you sleeping now? Understand you recently discovered melatonin, but
Yeah, so I'm not sleeping that great. There's two sides to it. So it's either I stay up all night, I am in pain, and I'm thinking about all of this, the legal stuff and John Hopkins All Children's Hospital memories, or I fall asleep and I have nightmares and I wake up sweating. Sometimes I cry, because whenever I dream, it's not dreams, it's more nightmares and remembering all the trauma.
okay. So how many hours do you sleep on average a night?
5.
What happens? Have you tried tramadol? Any of those?
I have
Okay.
trazodone, yes, and
Trazodone.
I mean, again, I'm able to fall asleep, but then once I enter REM sleep, I start dreaming, and it's just too difficult.
Does it wake you up even with the trazodone?
Yes.
And so now, they know, everyone knows that you're a very, very good student, but can you tell the jury about any difficulties that this emotional pain, suffering, physical as well, to the extent it's been aggravated, has changed your ability to focus, study?
Yes, so when I'm experiencing higher levels of pain, it's harder for me to concentrate on the material. And then with my mind just thinking about John Hopkins all the time, because I haven't been able to get proper therapy, I could be reading a paper, I could get to the bottom of the page, and I have not absorbed a single thing. And I have to reread it like 3 times before I actually remember it.
That adds to the time you need to absorb material in school and so forth.
Yeah, it takes me a significant amount of time. Even though I'm smart, it's very difficult.
And how does it affect your pleasure reading? Or do you do pleasure reading?
No, I don't even read anymore. I would like to, because I do enjoy reading. I like learning.
Okay. Now, have you found any difficulty with talking about, strike that, have you kept up with some of your friends, people that you knew or know who have or had CRPS?
Well, I did have one friend with CRPS, but she did pass away from it a year after my mom passed away.
Again, we raised the objection about discussing other people's.
Yeah, they don't want that in. But her friend passed away from CRPS.
So
And we also object on relevance.
Overrule the relevance.
So what effect then, and how are you doing right now, by the way, in terms of pain and symptoms?
I've had CRPS, since I got diagnosed with it, and it does fluctuate. I go through periods of time where it's better and then other times where it's worse. I think just with everything going on, it has been a little bit harder to cope with. The last week in particular has been a little bit more taxing than usual, and it's hard to make it through the day.
As you sit here right now, though, is the jury seeing you in here? How would you rank your pain on a 1 to 10 scale as you sit here right now?
Right now, I would say that it's probably a 7 or 8.
But you don't grimace, you don't?
No.
Okay. So now, in terms of symptoms, do you have any symptoms right now other than the pain?
Other than the pain, I have lesions and there's slight discoloration in my right leg exclusively.
Is that where it started? Is that where the CRPS originated?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And I'm still getting those monoclonic jerks.
Okay. Can you describe a little bit more for the jury what those involve?
So with the monoclonic jerks, it's completely involuntary. It could be from my foot to the top of my head. It's not a specific area that I just twitch in. So it's not really dependent on anything. It could be anywhere.
All right. So now, does this interfere with any aspects of your life? Strike that. Did this start? Strike that. When did this start? The monoclonic jerking.
I noticed it after John Hopkins All Children's Hospital, and it's just progressively gotten worse. And I did meet with my CRPS physician, Dr. Kirkpatrick, and he said that it's likely to get worse and worse.
Yeah, they don't want any testimony and that it's likely to get worse, according to her medical professionals.
the CRPS pain or these,
Continue, Mr. Anderson.
what I wanted to get at was when you have the CRPS pain or these lesions starting up, how frank are you with your family about them?
I don't want to worry my dad. I mean, he has enough on his plate. He's a single parent. And I mean, just being the father of 2 kids is hard enough. I mean, it would be even harder if one kid was really sick.
Okay. So does Kyle worry about you too?
He does. And actually about when I broke my pinky, that was the last time he let me play football with him because he was so unbelievably scared that if I got hurt again, it would increase the chances of me being separated from my family.
Mhm. And so these aggravated symptoms, and can you tell the jury, have your symptoms been aggravated by your stay at Johns Hopkins, if they've heard here?
I believe so. With the testimonies of the doctors, they relayed that when you interrupt treatment, it does increase the risk of it coming back.
Your Honor, we object. That's not a foundation.
Overruled.
Yeah, I was done anyway.
Okay. And then the circumstances you're in right now, ketamine worked for you before, but can you tell the jury why over this period of time since you got out of Johns Hopkins, I don't leave aside any legal, but just emotionally and from your own internal sources, why haven't you used the ketamine?
Well, besides the legal aspect of it, because I'm sure I can't get into that, but I mean, the stigma of ketamine in the medical industry for people who aren't familiar with CRPS has deterred me from seeking help again.
And does it cause you any worry that the wrong statement about it, the wrong request about it might cause this to happen?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
All right, so with the increased stress you've been talking about, has it had any physical manifestations? Obviously the CRPS, but leaving aside the CRPS, and we'll get into psychological, but leaving aside the CRPS, do you have any physical manifestations when you get stressed?
Yeah, so the insomnia, and then another thing is I do have atopic dermatitis. It was pretty well managed for the most part with ointments. It was never really bad, but I want to say within the last year, it got to be a serious problem. My skin was just disgusting. So I went to the dermatologist for that reason. Now I'm on a shot called Dupixent and it's completely gone. But those shots are, expensive and I have to take them every 2 weeks to keep my atopic dermatitis under control. And I just want to say the dermatologist said that it wasn't from environmental factors. It was from stress.
Sustained.
So then, plus, needles, right?
Yeah.
All right, I want to turn to the mental anguish segment of these damages. You talked a little bit about the sleeplessness, but I need to know, the jury needs to know more about the anxiety that you feel and what it's caused you in terms of the mental, anguish, the mental pain.
I am quite fearful to even talk to anybody about my feelings. I don't know if I'm allowed to tell why, or because it's about the legal stuff, how it's been like subpoenaed.
Let's stay away from
Okay,
right
but
now, just
I'm afraid to talk about that because, but then in the past at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital, I met with Dr. Lewis, who conducted a neuropsych exam, and he wrote down things that I did not say. So now whenever I go to a mental health professional, I'm scared that what their notes are actually not true with what I'm saying.
has it been hard for you to establish a bond with physicians and therapists?
Certainly, it's scary.
Well, what about Dr. Henschke? Did she help?
She did. I really liked her, but it did take me a few sessions to warm up to her. But I would like to see her in the future if at all possible.
And do you have any fears that whatever you put in records may end up in one of these places?
Your Honor, we object to strike.
Sustained.
So tell me also about going into a medical facility. Have you had any experiences lately that you can tell us about where you've had to go in?
I know, well, with the Arnold Palmer experience, there was like extra precautions that we took not only as a family, but we informed our physician. So every single time I go to a doctor's office or a hospital, it's quite frightening. There was actually one time I had a pretty bad cold. So I went to urgent care, but again, I waited like 4 days. And when I went into the examination room, he, it's like standard that you listen to the heartbeat. He asked me, why is your heart going so fast? And it's even scary to talk about, but I just told him I have anxiety when coming into,
I'm going to overrule on that one.
but I just have anxiety going into those places.
Okay. Now, with, we'll get into the activities in the next section, but kind of dumb question. How often do you think about your mom?
I think about her every single day. I mean, there's reminders all around. Anyone with blonde hair, I think of my mom. Anyone with glasses, I think of my mom. Certain colors she liked. Like Kyle said, perfumes. When I am at the mall and I walk by Victoria's Secret, I think of her because she loved going in there. Or like Telbots. I don't know, I see her everywhere, and it's a blessing, but also a curse. It's nice to be reminded of her, but it's hard.
And have you seen photographs of your mother when she was your age?
I did, yeah.
Does she look a lot like you?
Mhm.
So have you had any concerns about, as you grow older, looking in the mirror and seeing?
Yeah, it's harder. I mean, everyone when I was younger told me that I looked just like her. And for some reason, I never saw it. But after she passed, every time I looked in the mirror, I myself was a reminder of my mom.
Mhm. So then you have chronic depression?
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Okay. Now, is there any way the jury could differentiate between days when it's depression that's keeping you from doing the things you want versus days that the CRPS aggravation is keeping you from doing things you want to do?
I mean, the way to distinguish it would just be by asking. I don't think by looking at a person, you could really tell what's contributing to the fact why they don't want to do anything.
Mhm.
So with the CRPS pain, it's just if I'm hurting too bad that day or doing certain movements are too difficult and I can't go to the gym, I'll stay at home and I do just lay in bed. But then there's the depression, which is, I would say most of my depression would be revolving around my mom's death and then being taken away and being held at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital. And I constantly think about those 3.5 months.
Does it have any effect when you see someone that looks like Miss Beatty or some of those nurses?
Yeah, this is kind of embarrassing, but I did work as a server and I was fine working there for most of it,
Was it
I would
Cracker
say.
Barrel?
Yeah, Cracker Barrel.
How long did
And
you work there, Carol?
not long. It was a very
Weeks
short
or
time.
months?
It was like maybe 2 months-ish around there. It was a couple of months, but it was short compared to what most of my peers do. But I was serving this one table and I was looking at my little notebook. And when I looked up to listen to her order, the lady looked one-to-one with Kathy Beatty. And I felt so bad, but I just stared at her and I probably made her feel so bad, but I was so scared.
And so running into people that may look like some of the people that bothered you there,
Yeah,
how does that affect your desire to want to go out and do things?
it's hard because, I mean, I'm a teenager, so I like to go out with my friends, but at the same time, I avoid a lot of things and I've never told anyone about what happened to me until, now it's pretty public, but, none of my friends knew. So they probably just thought I was weird or being like dramatic. But in reality, I just have really bad PTSD.
Yes. Teenage girls sometimes can be a little hard. So now, does it affect you in terms of wanting to go out and, well, just go out of the house or out of, I guess you have a boyfriend now and his house is
Yes.
nearby?
Mhm.
How does that work?
So I go to his house a lot most of the time, and we used to go out like downtown Sarasota, but there was actually another instance when we were walking past a restaurant and there's a nice outdoor patio and people were dancing to live music. And I could have sworn one of the people dancing was Kathy, and I completely panicked. And it's just so embarrassing because like, if this continues to be a problem, I'm just afraid that people won't want to be around me or he'll break up with me.
Mhm. And that probably makes you, if there's a decision to go out with, when you already don't feel so hot physically, that add to it?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Okay. And so would you say then, Maya, in this area that before this, would you describe yourself as already being really quiet and kind of down, or did you have a different view or neutral view? What's the change?
Before, I was very optimistic and really positive. I was very outgoing and I love talking to people. But I think now it's just easier for me to be kind of neutral or negative about things, and then I don't get disappointed.
Mhm. And do you have any flashbacks to certain incidents there where you are reliving them?
All the time. I mean, there's like little things as well that people might think are silly, but are so significant to me. Like unscented hand sanitizer. I can't. I refuse. I will not put it on my hands. It just reminds me of Johns Hopkins because all the doctors before they come in, one of the first things they do before even saying hi is they clean their hands with the unscented hand sanitizer. My bed sheets at home, they used to be white, and I don't know if you've ever stayed at a hospital, but the bed sheets are white, so I changed them to pink. Foods. So I remember almost every day I ordered like the same thing because I'm a very picky eater and they didn't have a lot of options on the menu. So I don't really eat cereal anymore because that's what I had for breakfast. And then for lunch, I'd always have a grilled cheese. I can't eat grilled cheeses anymore without getting sad. And then for dinner, I would have spaghetti noodles. And now when I go to restaurants, if I order spaghetti, I always have to get a different shape. That way I'm not reminded. And then certain colors. So Kathy Beatty always wore dark purple, and to this day, I refuse. I will not wear dark purple, and anyone wearing dark purple, I naturally tend to stay away from. And I swear I'm not trying to be mean. It's just, to me, it's protecting myself. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I only wear silver jewelry, and that's because Kathy Beatty exclusively wore gold. So it's almost like everything she did, I have to do the opposite.
Mhm. It reminds me now, one of the jurors had a question after your last about, I think it was creature comforts.
Right.
Did you want to clarify that at all?
Yeah, so I apologize. I didn't understand the definition of creature comforts. I assumed it was stuffed animals, but I've since learned what it meant. And no, when I was staying there, it definitely felt more so a hostile environment rather than a comforting one. There wasn't, much treatment for me. Even with brushing my hair, it was so bad that my Aunt Wendy had to cut some of it off because it was matted. And then with brushing my teeth, it sounds disgusting, but without assistance, I went days without being able to brush my teeth.
I need to ask you then, insofar as some relapses about the incidents. First, during that first week you were there, did you make it plain to the Johns Hopkins people around you that you wanted out of there? You wanted to be away from that place?
It was so obvious. I don't think you could mistake what I was saying for wanting to stay there. I wanted out, and I made that clear. I told everyone and anybody who walked in my room, whether it was the person delivering food, whether it was rec workers, nurses, doctors, anyone entering my room knew I wanted out.
What about the period where they had you in that room for 48 hours? Did you let people know, even during that 48 hours, whether you wanted to be in there or outside?
I did not want to be kept in a room all the time. I mean, even though I'm in a wheelchair and I can't walk, it doesn't mean I want to stay put. I'm still a kid. I want to explore and I want to do things.
Do you remember any incidents where you asked whether you could leave to go play with a kid or play in the rec room?
I never really asked to play with a kid because I knew their answer would be no, but I did ask to go to the rec room quite often.
Just because you were sitting there for 48 hours?
Yes.
42, whatever it was. And then the event where on January 6th you were held and disrobed. Did you let them know, Kathy Beatty and the other nurse there, know you wanted away from them and out of there?
Yes, I was crying my eyes out. I mean, again, you can't mistake that at all. There's no excuse.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, I don't know if I asked you on the other thing, but were you actually ever naked in front of them, either top or bottom or both?
Yes, so during the changing process, in the set of photos, you could see two different training bras. So I did change out of that, and Kathy did see me naked at times.
And how did that make you feel based on the way you just are about that?
Disgusting and violated.
Okay. Now, you said that your mom is always with you. And now we need to talk a little bit about your mom's death. And the first thing I want to ask is, you heard the rest of your family's testimony, but what are the things with her being gone that you really liked to do family-wise that you don't anymore?
Well, at least 3 times a week, my family found time to sit down and watch our favorite shows. Being from Chicago, it's kind of funny, but we watch Chicago Fire, Chicago Med, and Chicago PD. So every week, there was one day of the week where a new episode would come out, and that was just bonding time.
And what about hair and makeup?
Yeah, my mom, she did my hair and makeup for ice skating competitions. When I was in Illinois, I was on the competitive team, so that meant I got to travel. And I really cherish that because those were the only solo trips I ever got to go on with my mom.
So are there certain phrases that your mom used that you either no longer use, or I hate this word, but trigger you?
Yeah, there was a couple, and I mean, when I hear other people say them, I smile a little bit, but it hurts just because I wish it was coming from her mouth. And then Polish accents, it's just, they're so comforting to me, but at the same time, my mom sounded the same way.
And again, was this the first time you heard that your grandfather was part of Solidarity?
Yes, yeah.
How'd that make you feel in terms of wanting to go back and learn more about your family in Poland?
I definitely want to go back to Poland. I wish I could go with my mom, but.
So now, this was an important period in your life, I guess, from 10 to where you are now. If you had personal issues, a girl growing up, how did it affect you that you didn't have your mom around?
It was very hard because I think when young girls are going through those changes, it's even uncomfortable to talk to other girls about it because it's all new. So typically they talk to their mom, and I had YouTube, so that was it.
So were you around other girls when they would talking to their moms about issues?
Yes, I had a lot of girlfriends, and it's hard because it's so beautiful seeing them have such a good relationship with their mom, but I get jealous.
I know. So now with these conversations that you used to have with your mom, what happens when friends of yours, or just girls that you know, from around start having conversations about going shopping and things with their moms?
It makes me very emotional, but typically I'm very good at hiding my emotions. It sounds mean, but sometimes I get distant from them. Like I won't want to hang out with them as much anymore.
Perfectly normal. So now, are you still in the same bedroom you were in when your mom was there?
Yes.
And what about that, if anything, is that a dumb question, but how is that a problem?
It is a problem. I've changed my room so much. I've gotten a new bed, new sheets like I talked about. My dad has painted it a different color and he's decorated it a little bit for me. But it's hard because the memories I do have of my mom, even though they're limited, I remember just laying in bed with her, and the nights when I was in pain, like screaming and crying, she obviously had work, but she would always get into bed with me and sit right next to me, try to calm me down, and she always had her laptop so she could do her work.
Just to be next to you. Now, while we're on that topic, I wanted to ask you about conversations with your mom while you were in the hospital, Johns Hopkins. And from the first that you went in, as time went on, what, if any, changes did you notice in your mom's voice and, if you will, approach to you?
Right. So I was granted phone call privileges with my mom at certain times, and I was very grateful for that. But you could just, when you know somebody, like you could hear when they're struggling.
Sorry. Water's good. So during this period of time, and I really want to go from the conversations when you first were in there and then on as we get close to the time that your mom passed.
At first, the conversations were, I would say, pretty good. I wasn't allowed to talk about certain things and she wasn't either. And you could kind of hear that in the audio recordings because she's either redirected or she pauses and has to rethink about what she's going to ask. And there's so many like little filler questions because even though we couldn't talk about important things, just being able to talk was enough for me. But as time went on, you could just tell like she couldn't think of any more things to talk about. And she was desperate to know how I was doing. And she probably heard too, like in my voice, that I was in pain and I was suffering. And it just got really difficult as we went on. And I could just tell she was falling apart.
Did it seem to you that her stress was increasing over this period of time?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you could hear it in her tone.
Mm-hmm. And these stilted conversations, could you still tell though? And if so, how could you, that she was getting more and more deeply into wherever she was going?
She does this thing like where she'll, in a way, like sigh talk. And when she does that, it's out of desperation, or if she feels like out of control in a way, like she doesn't have control over the situation, what she could talk about, and depression. You could just tell she was just so hopeless.
What about, now you're a 10-year-old girl at this point. How did you have mixed feelings about even letting your mom know about what was happening to you?
Yeah, I did.
And why? Why would it bother you to tell her to the extent you could tell her?
Well, obviously, you don't want to worry your parent, and she's always been the one to take initiative with taking care of my health because that was her expertise. So you're telling somebody like, hey, I'm hurting, but you can't do anything about it. You're far away from me, first off, and you know that the hospital workers aren't doing anything about it.
Oh, she got that in. Hospital workers aren't doing anything about it. Yeah, they didn't like that. Anybody who thinks this is acting, and I saw somebody put a comment in the chat that I hope was, Zetted, clearly doesn't have a child. Oops, I just knocked myself out of the stream, but it's okay because they're still having a sidebar. So I'm back. We didn't miss a beat. Don't worry. They're still talking.
Were there calls where Kathy Beatty, if you can recall back, were there calls where Kathy Beatty was interrupting you and your mom's calls?
Constantly.
How did that affect your ability to communicate with your mom and your mom with you?
Well, it made it very difficult. There were so many restrictions as is about what we could say and what we couldn't say. And then you have,
Your Honor, I respectfully submit objection.
Overruled. He qualified it by a date.
and then there was a person sitting right next to me who's making funny faces and acting childish when I'm having this special time with my mom. I mean, Kathy, she could just talk to her mom whenever she wants. She could pick up the phone. But with me, I only got to talk to my mom when Kathy was present, and she made a fool of herself when I was on the phone with my mom.
There is testimony in the record about you being told that your mom was in a mental hospital during this period of time. Do you recall that?
I do.
As you sit here today, can you tell the jury how being told these things about your mom, especially now your mom is gone, how that affects you in everyday life?
So when I was in the hospital, I was told that she was in a mental institution, and that's one of the reasons I couldn't see her. So the first thing I'm thinking is, why in the world would she be in a mental institution? You know, she's not mentally ill. She doesn't have anything wrong with her, and she hasn't done anything to our family. So it really did not make sense. When I was allowed to visit with my dad, I asked him, and he looked at me like, what are you talking about? And that's when I started to realize most of the things that these doctors were telling me were false.
Does that, again, give you difficulty in certain situations, trusting what someone is telling you?
All the time.
Suspicion, in other words.
Yes, I really don't trust people.
So now on this, the post-traumatic aspect of things, I've testified before of certain places that bother you, but can you tell us a little bit more about just random things that bring back these feelings, these memories, these concerns? Like,
Yeah, so I mean, the most obvious one is St. Pete. And I didn't always, not like going to St. Pete. I actually went there with my mom quite a bit when I was staying at the Ronald McDonald House for easier access to get to my infusion center. My mom and I would go downtown St. Pete, and she would wheel me around. And there was this one gelato spot that we always went to, Pichugo Gelato. She always got coffee. That was her favorite. And we would just sit and have a good time. Even though I was hurting, we still found time together and to make good memories. And now the fear of running into somebody at places in St. Pete is greater than the potential joy I may derive from revisiting those places that I used to spend time with my mom at.
I want to just mention some things. I don't want to take you back there. Okay. So this, I'm just going to beeping noises.
Yeah, so beeping noises are kind of like all around us. So when, you don't buckle your seatbelt, the little beeping noise goes off. Or if I'm backing up my car, the beeping noise. When I was at school, when I was going to school physically, the alarm in between periods. But those prolonged, rhythmic beeping noises really bother me because in a hospital, that's all you hear 24/7. So in a way, the whole entire world in which I walk in, there's always going to be reminders. And it's hard because, right now I could walk outside and I could point out 15 things that remind me of what I went through.
What about picking up a clock?
Oh my gosh. When I was in the PICU, that's all I looked at was the clock. It was right at, a little bit above eye level. And that's all I did was stare at that clock. And I was just waiting and begging, okay, this is what I did. So after it would reach 2 o'clock, for example, I would say just 1 more hour, you could do it. And then 3, and I just thought that eventually I would reach an hour where they would tell me I could go home. But it didn't happen for 3.5 months after that.
And because you were 10, you really didn't have the emotional development yet to deal with this.
Correct.
What about people in scrubs? I have random notes here, so I'm going to just say things.
Yeah, so people, work in hospitals, doctors' offices, whatever. And after work, they might go to the grocery store, or they might walk their dog, or they might go to, Sephora or the mall. And whenever I see people in scrubs, I'm afraid of you. I will not go near you. I don't know. I just can't do it.
What about, maybe I covered this, public bathrooms, trying to...
Yeah, so this is a more awkward thing to talk about, but when I was staying at J Hatch, they would always have the door open whenever I was using the restroom. So I have a hard time in public bathrooms knowing that somebody may be waiting for a stall, or if someone is in the stall next to me, I get really nervous because it just reminds me of the nurses who were watching me urinate and use the restroom.
So then, what about just everywhere? Is there anywhere you feel safe, Maya?
No, and not even my own home. And for a lot of people, that's where they go to relax. And it's not anything that, within the home. It's just the fact that we've lived through so much. And during that time, we were staying at the house we are still in.
Are you voting to move or not move?
Oh, move. Yes, I would love to move.
All right. So this takes us now to future plans. And back when we first talked, we talked a little bit about college, right?
Yes.
And we we talked about some places you might want to go.
Mhm.
My school. How have your plans changed, if they haven't? I mean, you talked about going to school in New York, or what steps have you taken lately to actually make this happen as opposed to wanting to?
Well, again, the idea of college sounds really great. I mean, I'm a senior in high school, so everyone's asking me like, where do you want to go? What do you want to do?
Have you submitted any applications yet?
Not a single one, and some of the deadlines are passed, and I really don't care, if I'm being honest. It's not that I don't want to go to school, it's just kind of like, what's the point? I feel like this chapter of my life needs to be resolved before I can actually take a step forward and moving on. In a lot of ways, I still feel trapped in, my 10 and 11-year-old body, because that's where my headspace has been living for the last 6.5 years.
Well, given your obvious performance now, the schools you're looking at, they're going to be academically challenging.
I would like to think so.
All right. Well, how do you think you're going to do in those environments with really cutthroat academic pressure and competition?
I think it's going to be really challenging. The first time I was ever alone from my family was at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital, and I'm a little bit afraid that when I'm alone again for a prolonged period of time, that I'll just feel the same way I did when I was 10 or 11.
Sure. And then, am I a difficult topic, but do you have any survivor guilt?
Yes, it's something that is also really difficult to talk about, but I was one of the last people to talk with my mom. And after finding out about her death, the next thing I thought of was, well, maybe if I said something different, or
How did it relate to, like, do you retrace your steps and your conversations those last few days?
all the time.
And what concerns do you have about things you might have said or not said?
Well, there's a lot of, again, topics off limits, so it was kind of hard to have like emotional and personal conversations with her.
Sure.
In a way, it felt scripted. So I just feel like maybe she thought I didn't care or such, like was talking with her, but those moments were so special to me.
Do you ever challenge yourself about whether telling her about how you felt and what was happening in there was not the right thing to do for you?
Yes, I feel like if I would have let her think that I was doing okay, that maybe she wouldn't have taken the step to end her life to get me out of there.
Right. And now, looking back on it, does it worry you that you told her those things?
Yes, I feel like it's my fault.
Now, I want to move on to loss of capacity to enjoy life. And you're doing great. You're doing great, Water. Let's talk about making new friends. We don't have that much more to go.
Yeah.
Let's talk about making new friends. How is that going? I mean, you have met a guy you like, and that's going well, I hope.
Yes.
Good. How about other new friends?
Well, I recently made a new friend, and thankfully she's very understanding of my situation, but it's hard because I'll make plans with people and I'll really want to go.
Sure.
But then the last minute I'll cancel either because I'm in pain or my depression's too bad.
You don't want to see people. And does that happen at the last minute, like you said?
Yeah, and that's why I feel even more guilty, is because they probably just think, oh, she doesn't want to hang out with me, but it's not true. I'm just really struggling.
Sure. And then how about connecting with the older friends, the friends you already had?
Yeah, I don't talk to any of the kids from elementary school as much other than Riley.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Any particular reason why, like going back even to your middle school days?
I think it's just hard because when you see the faces of people that were present and like during that time, it's already a reminder.
Right. And so when was the last time you actually were in a classroom type going to school?
2 years ago.
Why'd you stop? I mean, usually junior and senior year, pretty fun.
Yeah, I stopped for a lot of reasons. So I told you about the clock. Every single classroom has one of those. So when it's quiet, you hear the ticking and then I can't focus. And then the bells, it reminds me of Johns Hopkins. I was worried that the administrators I was just scared that they knew about what happened. I was scared that I may be taken away because my brother, when this was all going down, he got taken out of class and was examined alone. And I was terrified that would happen. So much so I actually started carrying my lawyer's card in my school backpack.
I'm still there. So the things that you were doing and very active in before, I'm gonna go through them. You tell the jury whether you still do them or don't do them, and if so, how much? Piano.
I do not do that at all anymore.
Singing.
No, I do not do that anymore.
Developing the Polish language.
No.
Can you communicate anymore with like your aunt here? That
Barely, because thank God she knows some English, enough where I could actually understand what she's saying. But with my grandma, for example, my babcia, I cannot have a conversation with her. And it's so hard because on the phone when I call her, she'll just break down and she's just crying.
she's used to you being able to talk. Skating.
Nope.
I guess not. You never got back into gymnastics.
No,
because
I
of the
didn't.
CRPS.
Yeah.
That would be really dumb. Any other activities that you used to take great pleasure in that you no longer care about?
Yes, so in middle school, I was president of a ton of clubs, or I was an active member in a bunch of clubs. And I feel like people are like, that's kind of weird. Like, your mom decided, why are you doing all this? But I was genuinely just trying to distract myself, and school for me was my only outlet. But when I got into high school, my depression was just getting worse and worse. So I actually just stopped going to clubs, and I haven't been a member of a club in quite some time.
What about, did you do some public speaking then in front of the class before?
I have, yes. I was, for like the middle school graduation, I was one of the spokespeople.
And how come you're not doing that kind of socializing? I know another dumb question. Why aren't you doing that socializing and leadership role anymore?
Well, I just feel like I don't really connect with my peers anymore. It's really difficult for me to make friends, let alone keep friendships. And I realize, I am the problem. It's because I suffer from a lot of things, and I hope to get help for those in the future.
Sure. Understanding. Your relationship with well, strike that. What about your future insofar as being a wife or a mother?
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously I'm afraid for being even in a relationship because I have really bad depression, and all I do is cry every day. It's guaranteed at least once I'll cry. And when you're hanging around a person that you're dating, you see him a lot. So at first I was able to kind of hold it, but now every day I cry in front of him, and I don't want him to think I'm crazy like other people in the past have thought. And then I'm scared with my CRPS, with the flares, because it's like taking care of a baby, like you lose a lot of abilities, and I don't want to give that life to somebody where they have to take care of me. And then with children, I don't have my mom, so I don't really have a girl to stand by my side and walk me through it. And
Wedding you're talking about?
weddings as well, yes. But yeah, pregnancies, weddings, and I'm quite fearful that in the future, if I do have children, that my fear of doctors will prevent them from getting care.
I had one more question on that, but I think I'll move on. So let's turn to the final area now. This is about things, what's known as a loss of child consortium with your mom. That's things that she used to do for you or with you that now either you have to do yourself or have to get somebody else to do. So I have a bit of a list in terms of clothes shopping. Was that a big thing that she helped you with?
Yeah, Kyle and I both.
And then social advice.
Yes.
And physical comforting, snuggling, things like that.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, advice about growing up, becoming a woman. Right?
Yes.
And then if you got sick or you thought you were getting sick, having a nurse as a mom.
Right.
Is that?
Yes.
Okay. Plus now you don't want to go to a doctor.
Yeah.
All right. Doing your hair.
Right. She always did it for me.
And of course, if you did decide to go somewhere, I guess you did split the chauffeuring around with your dad.
Yes.
Cooking.
Yes, she always cooked.
And the house, pretty much stayed spotless, don't it? Still?
Yes, still.
Right. Do you feel like you need to take care of your dad some now?
In some ways, I try to do the laundry as much as I can. I try to help out with our little dog. And I try to help out with Kyle sometimes in terms of driving him and whatnot. And I don't really buy clothes unless if it's with my money. That's why I kind of got a job. Obviously, he still buys me things and whatnot, but I do feel guilty because, he's the only one bringing money. So I don't want to use it.
All right. Tell there any other practical things they should consider in terms of things that your mom did for you or did with you to the point where it was, you won't do them anymore.
I think the other thing is just travel,
But you have been out of the city a
Yes.
couple times. Good. Hopefully do more, right?
Yes, hopefully.
Okay. So before this, did I ask you to assist the jury in giving them some ideas, some quantitative data, if you will, on time that this affects?
Yes, you did.
All right. So physical, emotional pain and suffering. How many hours on a single good day, if you have a good day, how many hours do one or more, does this affect you, the aggravation of your CRPS and the PTSD and depression?
I would say about 12,
Okay. And then on a single bad day, including sleep time.
15.
Okay. And then mental anguish and what we talked about, all those things on a good day, how many hours does it affect you?
I would say like around 10,
And then on a bad day, how does this, what we discussed, affect you?
18.
So 3/4 of the day.
Yes, I don't really sleep much.
Okay. Loss of capacity to enjoy life. How many hours on a good day?
11, 12.
Okay. And then what about on the bad days?
That would be again around like 17, 18.
Okay. Now, if we could kind of combine these together to the good days versus bad days in the week. And I know it's mixed, but can you give us an idea of how many days out of the week are good days and how many days are bad days?
I would say it really does depend on the season. I mean, right now it's actually a little bit harder than usual because October is the month that I was taken. But I usually do have more bad days than good. I would probably say 5 out of the 7 days are bad.
All right. And that's taking into account the 3 categories for that.
Correct.
All right. And then about the effects of the loss of your mom. Let's talk about how many hours on a single good day that this substantially affects you. And I'm not talking about just a passing thought. I'm talking about whether it's substantially affecting your life.
Right. I would say about 7 hours.
Okay. And I had you think about this before.
Correct.
All right. And how about on a single bad day?
That would be like 9, 10.
Okay. All right. So then how many days out of the week are good versus bad on average?
I mean, I think about her a lot, and her death has severely, impacted me. And I would argue that that's probably like 6 out of the 7.
Okay. So 6 bad to 2 good.
1 good.
And finally, Maya, are you worried about the future at all with the challenges that life brings? Relationships, jobs, things like that?
Yes. I mean, the first job I held for a week.
Mhm.
And then the next one just over, a couple of months. So I obviously don't really know how to hold a job without it either triggering my PTSD, depression, or CRPS. And then I am worried with my relationships, as I said, with friends and even my boyfriend.
All right. Thank you, Maya.
Mr. Shapiro.
Yeah, briefly, Ron. Thank you. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning.
Just a couple of really quick topics. So I know before you had your ordeal at All Children's, you did have some therapy before, I think, with Rebecca Johnson.
Correct, to cope with the diagnosis of CRPS.
And did you find it helpful?
I did.
Do you plan on getting therapy again once this trial is done?
Yes.
Okay. Just a couple of things. You said you have been able to maintain a relationship with your boyfriend.
I have, yes.
Awkward question, but how long y'all been dating?
Over a year.
Okay. You have your driver's license?
I do.
And do you have your own car?
I do, yes. We sold my mom's car.
Gotcha. Anything fun that you're driving, or what'd you get?
I have this, I forget what model it is, but it's a Tesla. So we have the solar panels which heat our pool, and then I charge it.
Oh, that's fun. You talked about so therapy going forward. I guess in terms of what you hope for your future, with some help in therapy, you could pursue some of your dreams for college after that. Is that still the plan?
Yes.
Okay. And just to be clear, you have, I would hope, big dreams for yourself. You're very bright. Go to college one day.
I would like to do that, yes.
Okay. Just because you've been sitting here in the courtroom with us out of curiosity, any thought about becoming a lawyer?
Probably not.
That's a good choice. Good choice. It's one thing we probably agree on. Anyway, that's all I have. I appreciate it. And again, I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Anything further? May the witness be excused. Well, members of the jury, do any of you have any questions? Oh, that's right.
Okay, so if you missed the stream last night, we talked about, we looked at Maya's rebuttal testimony, and somebody put in the chat that they were not allowed to admit those photographs into evidence. They did admit some photographs into evidence. They admitted a photograph or 2 of her at homecoming in, I think it was a red dress. They admitted another photograph, a very pretty, looked like a portrait of her that was taken, that was solo. And then there was another picture of her and Jack and Kyle sitting at a table. It looked like a professional photo where they were kind of laughing. And I said, when he started questioning her about, oh, did you go out for Halloween? Did you go into downtown Venice? What time did you get back? Around 11? That it is my opinion that they have a private investigator following her, just like they do in all high value personal injury cases, and even in workers' comp cases. If anybody out there has had a workers' comp case or a social security disability case, you know what it's like to be followed by a private investigator, because the second that you testify that you can't take out the garbage, what do? They go park down the block from your house and they get video of you taking out the garbage. So he intentionally, now that I'm watching this back, asked her what kind of car she had, because he knew that she's driving a Tesla and he wanted that out there. And there's been a lot of, and if she said something else, he probably would have whipped out a photo of her driving her Tesla. But that's been the subject of a lot of trash talking in other chats. Let me know your thoughts on that. As I fast forward through the jury question sidebar. Okay, let the jury out. So here we go. Right, we sold mom's car and I got a Tesla. I don't get what the point of this is saying she has a Tesla. So what? They're trying to show that she's spoiled. She doesn't need any money from us. She drives a Tesla already. Why would she need why would you need to award her any more money? Obviously, she's living the good life. That's exactly, I think, what that was intended to show. I don't know if it's going to play well with the jury. All right, here we go for the jury questions on Maya's damages.
Get approached by anyone about this case, is that correct? And have you seen any media about this case that you're asked? Have any of you set off the security alarms? It's all you, deputy. It's all good. Okay. Members of the jury, I have reviewed your questions outside the presence of Maya Kowalski, and I'm going to be able to answer or ask almost all of them. Okay, so it's going to be a few minutes, Ms. Kowalski, but the jury wants to know, on your good days, do you feel happiness?
I still feel happiness, but I don't feel the joy that I once felt in life. Like, people still make me feel happy, and I'm still able to like be happy at certain points, but it's not the same.
Okay. While in Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital, was it long periods of time between phone calls or visits where you were by yourself?
Oh, yes. Yes.
And was that super difficult and lonely?
Absolutely. I mean, even being there alone and then without the phone calls or visits, it's like torture.
Okay. Tell us more about the lack of, quote, creature comforts, end quote, or care you did not receive. For example, when Sally Smith came in your room, your dad was cleaning you up.
Right. So, I mean, my privacy was violated like a lot. Like I talked about the bathroom, how the door had to be open. I talked about the razor. So I wasn't allowed to shave, which, I mean, again, you're growing up and you're a girl. It's like kind of typical that you start shaving around that age. And I felt like unclean with myself a lot of the times. Showers had to be supervised. There was a point where my dad was allowed to bring, I believe, shampoo, the like good scented ones. But other than that, I had to rely on the hospital, like little bottles. And then when I was in the bed in the PICU, my version of a shower, they just took like a washcloth and they would clean me up that way. Then like the toilet paper, if you've been to a hospital, you know it's like sandpaper, so it's uncomfortable. And then the hair, I wasn't able to brush my own hair because of the pain at a certain point. So I went a very long time without it and it got matted. So my aunt had to cut it. And then the toothbrush situation where I wasn't able to brush my teeth again for the same reason, the pain. So I had to wait till someone was willing to help me. And even when I vocalized it, again, they kind of just didn't help in hopes that I would do it myself and then they would prove like I was making it up. But instead, I just sat there unclean and uncared for.
Okay. Other than Jessica, the guardian ad litem, did you have other people to help you on phone calls, or did it end up only being Kathy Beatty?
Kathy Beatty.
Okay. How often did you see Kathy Beatty?
I saw her quite frequently. I mean, multiple times a week. I saw her more than I ever did my dad, brother, and my mom during that time.
What made you hate her, meaning Kathy Beatty, the most?
It was the lies, the manipulation, her, I call it like fake kindness, because she presented herself sometimes okay in front of people when I had visitors, but then behind closed doors, it was weird. She violated my privacy by kissing me, hugging me, lifting me up, putting me on her lap, touching my legs. She also, I didn't mention this in my...
All right, I'm going to slow this down a little bit because I think this is important to hear, because Kathy Beatty is an employee of the hospital. So if the jury finds that Kathy Beatty is the person who caused the most PTSD to Maya based on her actions, that's where the big dollar amount is going to come in my opinion. They're trying to say it wasn't us, it was Sally Smith, she didn't work for us. It's another question the jury's going to have to decide whether or not Sally Smith held herself out as an agent of the hospital, but a lot of the things that she's talking about in her PTSD were caused by Kathy Beatty. So just keep that in mind as we listen to this testimony.
She violated my privacy by kissing me, hugging me, lifting me up, putting me on her lap, touching my legs. She also, I didn't mention this in my first testimony because it just slipped my mind, but she cursed around me. So she was like informal and inappropriate. And all of those things combined just led to me not liking her. But the cherry on top was the conversations with my mom and seeing her being disruptive and making faces.
Do you think you can get a new job?
I believe I can, but I really need therapy first. I feel like I have to work through some things before I would feel comfortable holding and keeping a job.
Maya, you said your pain was 5 to 7. Is this on a scale of 1 to 10 or 1 to 50?
I'm using the 1 to 10 scale.
Maya, your testimony has now triggered me to ask this next question. Possibly at this point you may know, and if we hear from another doctor, I'll ask them. Understanding CRPS can come and go, can get worse or disappear. Can CRPS result in the destruction or degradation of things like nerves, their synapses, brain cells, neurons, etc., to the point that CRPS can, quote, cause, end quote, addition or new debilitating ailments?
I would ask a doctor that question because all I know is my symptoms. I know my pain. I don't know the science behind it and whatnot.
When you were in need of changing your undergarments during the treatment of at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital, next series of questions are all about that subject.
Mhm.
Were you always first afforded the opportunity of privacy in accomplishing the task on your own?
Well, because of my physical limitations, I was not able to do the task alone. So I knew I needed help. And with my parents not there, the next best thing is a nurse. But some of them really did respect me. They would like look away as much as they can, or they wouldn't intentionally make me feel uncomfortable. But the whole situation with Kathy was very different, and that's why I brought it up. The other changing instances, I understand that was necessary, and they did their best to remain respectful.
Okay. Were there occasions that you specifically asked for assistance in changing your undergarments?
In the mornings when I would change into new clothes, I would ask the nurse.
When staff would change your undergarments, did staff use or offer the use of covering your upper or most definitely lower parts with the bed sheets for a bit of privacy?
Not really that, but again, they just kind of like tried to look away. But I mean, again, it wasn't, I mean, what's important is like when I complain about like privacy and whatnot, it's normally when it's out of their duties. So like a social worker, Kathy Beatty, she's not supposed to be there. Or like a doctor, for example, a doctor alone, like that's not okay. Stuff like that. Not so much as like nurses, and that's their part of their job.
While at the hospital in October, November, December, January of 2016 and 2017, was there ever a time staff clearly made available to you or asked if you wanted to use or would like assistance in getting to the usual room's built-in restroom?
Sorry, could you repeat that one more time?
Was there ever a time that the staff clearly made available to you or asked if you wanted to use or would like assistance in getting to the room that you were in's usual built-in restroom?
Yeah, so I had to have assistance, so I'd use the call button, but in the PICU, I had nurses who weren't as quick, so I would end up, you know, peeing on myself or worse, and they would get frustrated with me when I did that. But again, I know, like, if that's part of their job to take me to the bathroom, So I wasn't obviously doing that on purpose. It's just as embarrassing for me. So when I was able to move up to floor 7, some of the nurses, I think, remember the Daisy Award. I nominated one of the nurses because when I asked her to use the bathroom, she was there as quickly as possible and took care of me.
Was an open view potty chair placed all those months, and that was understood to you as being your only option?
That was, I believe, just when I was being surveillance without my consent. All the other times, there's like bathrooms connected to the room that you're staying in, and those are much more private. They're out of the view of the door and the window of the door. They're off to the side, and there's another door that keeps people from like looking in, and there's no windows on that one. But yeah, the only time I had to use the commode was during that 48 hours.
Okay. And lastly, whether assisted or under your own strength, was some kind of rolling, moving screen or curtain made freely available to you once seated if you could afford yourself a level of privacy?
No.
Mr. Anderson,
I know. I had to check that too, Jenny. It sounded to me like it was slowed down. That's why I went back over here. But it sounds like once we put it back onto regular speed, it really feels like it's slowed down, right? I'm going to speed it up a little bit because when we were batted on 1.5, it sounded more normal to me too. I just wanted to do it for effect so you guys could hear what the actual jury was hearing, but we'll speed it back up now.
do you have any follow-up questions based on the jury's questions?
Yes, Maya, at this point, you were 10 years old. Would you describe yourself as an innocent 10-year-old or a more worldly, like older in knowledge of things?
No, definitely innocent.
And or is it explained to you that one of the reasons that they limited things like allowing you your shampoo or soap or any liquids or things like that from home was this fear that your family or friends were spiking it with?
1 second. I'm going to sustain the objection Mr. Shapiro is trying to make on that question.
Yes.
Okay, let's go to the next question.
All right. That's all I have.
Very briefly, Ron.
Sure.
Just about the visitors. So the teachers, they came to visit you.
Yes.
Okay, that was Dieter
Correct.
and Shepler.
Yes.
And then the jury hasn't met her yet, but there was the guardian ad litem. Do you remember her name?
No.
With Sharon O'Leary. Does that ring a bell?
No.
No. Okay. Some of the family that came to visit you, Uncle Scott,
Yes.
Aunt Wendy,
Yes.
Kyle when he could. I know he's in school, but Kyle came to visit.
Right.
You had your attorneys came.
Right. But all of these instances, I mean, I was there for 3.5 months, and I mean, I feel like it should be discussed about the number of times these people visited me, because it wasn't every day. Most certainly wasn't every week. There were times where I went days without seeing anybody that I recognized from my life at home.
Like, what was that? Oh, it wasn't so bad that you couldn't see your mom, right? Or talk to your mom, because all of these other people were allowed to see you. That was a really dangerous question, and she answered it perfectly.
Your friend, is it Riley
Yes, a single time she was able to visit.
and Sophia?
I believe so, yes, a single time.
And your dad was there once he was granted access almost every day.
He tried his best, but there's Kyle as well, so he has to take care of the family.
Thank you for your time.
And just so everybody knows, Ms. Kirby just joined us by Zoom, like within the last 30 seconds. So Ms. Kirby, I'm going to place you into the waiting room for just a moment. We'll call you in just a couple of moments. Anything further?
Maya, when you did have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people visit you, were these on a limited basis?
Oh yeah, it's not like they could stay the whole day. There was a time restriction. There were sometimes supervisors, actually most of the time there were supervisors, and there was a lot of difficulties with, in respect to my friend Riley getting in.
Anything further, Mr. Shapiro?
No, thank you.
Members of the jury, any further questions?
For jury questions. Okay.
I think we've asked all the questions that we're able to ask at this point. So Ms. Kowalski, if you could go have a seat.
Thank you.
All right. And that's it.
And
So
in
it's
the name of-
interesting to watch that back, you guys, right? Normally I don't put the subtitles on because they're so poorly done that it doesn't even reflect any, it's so not accurate that it's not even worth watching. Let's go to the comments. Shall we? Hi, Beach Lover. Thank you again for another super chat. Can you just imagine how many families lost kids to Jay Hatch, Sally Smith lies that couldn't have money to fight in court? Glad Jack has brought attention to CRPS and CPS removal. Yeah, all of them. Beach Lover again coming in. Sadly, Jay Hatch still treats Beata as guilty. Yep. Pippi Longstocking is a new member. Thanks for joining. Thank you, Atticus, for the super chat. It is concerning to me that the majority of medical professionals who stabbed Beata in the back are female. What are your thoughts? Thank you. I saw somebody respond to you in the chat saying that most of them were in pediatrics and that the majority of doctors are in pediatrics are female. I don't know if that's true, but I found that concerning as well. It seemed like almost every doctor who worked in the hospital, every medical provider that worked in the hospital practically that treated Maya was female. And what is it they say? That there's a special place in hell for women who don't help other women, I think is the quote. Hi, Christine, the depot. Melanie, it may or may not have taken place, may or may not in the courtroom. That's all I can say. Okay, so interesting if they filed that motion on Friday, because when I did go back and watch some of what went on in court on Thursday, the judge did say something like, we may have to come in over the weekend. So maybe they did do the deposition in the courtroom after that motion was filed by the defense. And the judge said, we're all going to go in there and I'm going to sit in during the deposition. I'm going to tell you what is admissible and relevant and what is not. Very possible. Because oftentimes you want to have a judge at least available by phone during a deposition in case you need a ruling. So sometimes depositions are ordered to be done in the courthouse. I know that in Nassau County and Suffolk County, they have rooms where you can go and do depositions in the courthouse, which is here on Long Island. So they may have done it there, right in the courtroom. Interesting intel. I love it when people on the inside give me information, but we're not going to dox you. KM Hope says there is a lien on their house for $100,000. I don't know. That could be, if that's true, it could be a lien that has nothing to do with what Rawlings is involved in, trying to claw back the medical expenses. Because in order to put a lien on someone's house, you would need to sue them and get a judgment and try and enforce it. So I don't know. Maybe they have a second mortgage on their house and that's what they're saying is a lien. I don't know, but I have no verification that there's actually a lien on their house from the Rawlings company who is coming into the lawsuit to try and claw back the money that their insurance carrier paid for treatment during the course of this action, during the course of the events of this action. Hi, Jacqueline. I hope that the compensatory damages for Jack, Maya, and Beata's estate is high. From my research, punitive damages are affected by compensatory damages. Yes. And I think that the lawyer, on his show, who is a practicing Florida attorney, said that the punitive damages can only max out at 3 times the compensatory damages. I'm pretty sure that's what he said, and he practices there, so I'm going to take his word for it. I also learned something interesting when they were talking about jury instructions this week, that they wanted something in the jury instructions that indicated to the jurors that if they did want to award punitive damages, they were going to have to come back and hear more evidence with regard to that. So the jury thinks they're getting out on a certain day. I don't know that they're aware that if they want to award punitive damages, they're going to have to come back to hear some more evidence. It's interesting. And I hope it doesn't affect the way that they find in the jury room, because I know a lot of them have hard stops. They need to get out of there. They have jobs. They have families. Courtney B. Dr. Crane was only a non-treating CRPS expert for the defense, and he didn't examine her. I think another defense expert was excluded. So I'm not sure if they may have been counting on someone else for the IME. I don't know. Mark Blaine, but that's a good point, Courtney. Mark Blaine says, Melanie, the report stated hospital presents a culture of fear of retaliation and retribution to patients and families. Are you talking about the CMS report that we looked at, or that I pulled up and linked to from last night's stream? And that's very interesting, because isn't that exactly what Maya is testifying to? Hi, Ron. Can you take Rawlings to court? I often did. I often would file an order to show cause and bring them into court to explain to the court why they thought they were entitled to get their money back. And sometimes they would back off. It depends. If the lien was very substantial, yeah, I would. But I would make them come into my proceeding. I wouldn't sue them separately. I have questions. The pictures were not allowed in. Actually, they were on the stream last night. We showed the pictures that were allowed in. Some of the pictures, are you talking about the pictures of Maya? That were not allowed in, that were splashed all over the New York Post and the Daily Mail, were of Maya in her Halloween costume, and some other pictures that were not allowed in. Shapiro said that several people emailed them directly to him. So he gaslit Maya further during rebuttal when she accused him of going into her private accounts or her friends' private accounts and said, no, lots of people sent them to me. They emailed them to me directly. That was kind of a snaky thing that he did. We went over that last night too on the stream. So if you haven't checked it out, check out last night's live. Hi, Kimberly. Are the jurors allowed to look up CRPS on their own computers when they get home? They are supposed to do no outside research. So technically they're not allowed to. They're not being sequestered, so nobody really knows what they're doing. I'm going to say no. Hi, Dawn. I don't fully understand. The hospital didn't give her CRPS. Yes, that's true. They did not give her CRPS. But the allegations are that they did give her PTSD. And the allegations are that PTSD can exacerbate CRPS, and CRPS can be exacerbated by stress. Any of my CRPS patients in the chat can chime in on that. And it can throw you out of a remission. And the stress of what happened to her and the PTSD that she was caused to suffer as a result of what happened to her in the hospital, the argument could be made that it exacerbated her CRPS that she already had. But again, the hospital's claiming she never had it, right? It's very confusing. I know it is hard to understand. Hi, Colleen. The only liens on the properties are mortgages and order that limit the right of future advances against the property, meaning no additional loans until the current loans are satisfied. Okay. So yeah, maybe that clears that up. I don't know. Hopefully you know more than I do. Christine, I hope to take flowers to Beata's final resting place here in Sarasota County and tell her how proud we all are of her, sweet Maya. Oh, that is so kind of you. I know, I think you said you were leaving earlier, but if you're still here, bless you for doing that. And also the Team Maya shirts that are available in my merch shop, 100% of the proceeds are going to CRPS research. That's another good way to support and also show people that you are on Team Maya, raising awareness for these diseases that are so hard to diagnose, so hard to understand, and there's no cure. Hi, Elise. After her testimony, the attorney on the plaintiff's side wore purple. Do you mean on the defense side? That's rough. Hi, Cat Lady. Just an FYI, Judge Carroll has a 2% overturn rate on appeal, meaning 98% of his cases are affirmed on appeal. Yeah, that's interesting because you can see how meticulous he is. I mean, he's working 24 hours a day on this case. He is giving it all of the attention. He's very thoughtful, very reasoned in all of his rulings, and he's being very careful to cross every T and dot every I. Destiny, hi. I'm a complex trauma therapist, and this teen has signs of PTSD symptoms, and I see reliving traumatic memories. God bless her. The trust issues, in my view, are going to be difficult. Thank you for that. Speak Life, Garden Homestead, and Permaculture. If I'm on the jury, I would include the title and deed of Johns Hopkins to now be called Maya's Shopkins Compassionate Care Center when they sign it over to her. Hi, Mark, again. What's going to win this case is Whitney and Dr. Corcoran. Yes, go back and watch that live stream that I did, Battle of the Experts. We put their testimony up against each other, and then go back and watch Dr. Corcoran's rebuttal testimony from the other day, which was great. Hi, Skoda. Judge said the IJ will be the very first topic covered tomorrow. Yes, I'm sure that it will be. If they did not resolve it over the weekend, if they were in the courthouse doing the deposition and the judge was there to rule, because he wants this done. He made a promise that you can see he's a guy who keeps his word too. He made a promise to this jury. He wants to keep it. And he wants to do closing arguments tomorrow. So we'll see. Hi, Nikki. My children, grown now, both have PTSD from their father being. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. Nikki, I can't even imagine. My son has some anger issues and my daughter has terrible anxiety. I appreciate she gets the counseling she needs. Yeah. Wow. My heart goes out to you and your children. Hi, Janae. I heard that some kids who don't like her emailed the Facebook pictures off her friends' pages. Might be, yeah, I don't really know that her age group has Facebook so much as maybe Instagram, Snapchat, or something like that. But yeah, I think could be. But there's also trolls out there who just who thrive on doing things like this, who would love to just, see her lose this case. And there's a lot of haters out there for whatever reason. I have no idea. No idea. But coming into this YouTube world only maybe 3 months ago, I have found that there are a lot of haters out there who really have a lot of too much time on their hands. And just like to make people's lives miserable for no apparent reason other than maybe misery loves company. That's my guess. Hi, Boogeyman. This was really strong stuff, but how much of its impact is still on the jury? It was a while since they heard this. I know. And that's why I wanted to play it again tonight, because I think we needed to watch this again before they go into deliberate. But I will say that they have been taking copious notes throughout this trial, and it seems like they're really paying attention, and I hope it's not lost on them. I really hope it's not lost on them, and I hope that they do remember. So let's keep our fingers crossed on that. Hello, Melanie. If I could pull this up, why did this not start itself? Let me see. Melanie, thank you so much for your very generous super chat. Florida mom here, adopted sibling group of 3. Previously, they had a failed adoption attempt. The DCF foster care people were incredibly difficult to deal with. What should have taken 3 months took 6. Awful. Yes. Somebody emailed me a couple of articles regarding the entire Florida DCF system, and sadly, that is not an isolated case. Very, very sadly. Hi, Patty Booth. I think it says 8:15. It's supposed to start on Monday. That's what it said in the court computer, unless they changed it based on what happened this weekend. Hi, Gamer. Ducko should be over 60 notepads by now. Yes, that is true. Right, Skoda. Shapiro's wife was trolling and talking crap about Maya online. I find that just so insane. Insane. Yeah, it seems like all of DCF is a mess. Yes. Sarah, you are very welcome for continuing to cover this case. I have heard through my grapevine of viewers that their person that they usually watch who does daily recaps at night is not doing it tomorrow and Tuesday. So I will be doing it tomorrow and Tuesday. I'll be there for you so that you have something to watch. Here is my email. If anybody would like to email me, please feel free to email me with information, show ideas, only nice emails. I don't want any nasty emails or, I'll block you. My mods will block you. Yeah, I will be on. I'll come on tomorrow night. And we'll go over what happened tomorrow during the day. Thank you to all of my moderators for keeping the chat classy. You guys are amazing. You're amazing. I couldn't do this without you. I love you all so much. To my subscribers, my channel members, thank you so much. I'm planning to do a members only live very soon. To anybody who is watching this video on replay, and if you wouldn't mind just hitting the like button, it doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe either, and to like the video, and to comment on the video, because it helps the video get pushed out. Because something about a YouTube algorithm, I don't know. I don't really know. All I know is these are important topics. We need to talk about them. We need other people to talk about them. Free feel to share the video. And thank you again for coming in and hanging out with me on this Sunday evening. At least in New York, it's Sunday evening. Don't forget, be cool, be kind, be classy. I will see you tomorrow. Good night, everybody. Hug your kids.